This is Cameron Crowe, and this is the audio commentary track for Untitled, the movie that became almost famous. I will make no apologies up front for this being a personal reminiscence. Should be fun. With me here, Scott Martin from Vinyl Films.
Hello.
Andy Fisher from Vinyl Films.
Hello.
Ivan Corona, our family friend.
Hey, how you doing?
We have Mark Atkinson from DreamWorks over there, and our special guest star, Alice Crowe, my mom. There she is, live and in person. So I figured there was two ways to do this. One would be the mystique-filled, shrouded, no actual facts being revealed version, or we could just be blatantly open about what created the movie and how we did it and where it all came from. By the way, I'm very proud of this title, Untitled. But anyway, so of course we're going to go for the embarrassingly personal approach because that was always my favorite thing about the music I loved and movies that I loved. And thank you, Francis, for getting the joke of the misspelling of your name. But this is a very kind of important movie to me. It was hard for us to make, but we basically went home every night in disbelief over our good fortune to be able to do it. So here we are reliving it. These are all my old backstage passes and stuff. That Who pass actually has my name on it, but, you know, freeze frame, that's what it's for. This title sequence is an homage to To Kill a Mockingbird, which we mentioned in the movie. And I always loved the title sequence to Kill a Mockingbird. The music's by Nancy Wilson, my wife, who's so brilliant. And all these things are real artifacts because my family, and this begins with my mom, we've always been pack rats. We save everything. All right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
family curse.
So we finally found a purpose for all this stuff. Those are some of my old notes from journalism. I think it was a story on Jethro Tull. Like I say, shamelessly personal. That's what our little trip through the audio commentary is going to be. These are shots of San Diego, where my family moved when I was pretty young. That's Balboa Park. And
that's where Granny and Grandpa spent their honeymoon.
Really?
Balboa Park, right there.
Wow. I think we're in Pacific Beach now. Here's Ocean Beach. By the way, Clay Griffith, who was unable to get the credit as production designer because of his relative newcomer status, did an amazing job, and he shares that credit with Clayton Hartley, who is the art director. But let's just say Clay did a tour de force job on every little detail in the movie, so we hail you, Clay. Here is OB, Ocean Beach, where I did a lot of body surfing, and we all hung out. And here we are in Pacific Beach, Mom.
One of my favorite scenes that you cut half of it. My favorite scene.
This one?
Yes, when the man's writing on the
window.
Yeah, on the window there.
You know that's coming up. I put that back in.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you.
Good. This is a tribute to my mom, who. Oh, by the way, yes, Stolen Kisses, Don't Look Back, and also Best Years of Our Lives Were Real.
That's a Strand Theater.
That's the Strand
old
Theater.
Strand Theater. We used to go there and throw balls up on the stage, Kleenex balls up on the screen. So
we did?
Yes, we did.
Was that where we saw Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia and you stood up and said, Bring me the head of Sam Peckinpah? I think so.
Could be.
Anyway, this scene is a tribute to my mom because my mom could never handle Xmas.
That's right.
Yeah, she thought it was just wrong. It's Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas. What's X, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, we have confirmation. This is, boy, I love Zooey Deschanel. She did such a great job playing Anita. And
my daughter Cindy.
Yeah.
She looks just like her.
I know. And that's pretty much one of your dresses, isn't it, that Francis is wearing?
That's right.
You used to wear those kind of peasant moo things.
Very 60s.
It's great.
This scene actually happened.
It's true.
She looked in the mirror to see if her lips were puffy, and they were.
But we never could figure out if you actually knew
I did.
how to tell
I did.
that they'd been kissing.
Yeah, her lips were puffy.
Yeah. She was mystified on how you actually knew. Now, do you remember this? You really did feel Simon and Garfunkel were on pot.
I admit to nothing.
You know, Paul Simon did an interview on CNN, and they played this scene.
Really?
He said that you may have been right.
Yeah, I did.
But
I finally admit it.
the wicked thing is that you saw Simon and Garfunkel play Mrs. Robinson on the Smothers Brothers show.
Yes.
And you wrote a letter to NBC, and you said, Jesus loves you more than you will know. They're saying that in a sarcastic way.
That's true. I got a letter of apology from the president.
Wow. Well, it took us a few years, but hopefully
But I embraced it
we're
later
able to
on.
pay tribute. Really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they're great.
Trying to raise us in a no.
In a no environment.
Oh, it sounds familiar.
Now, Mom, was it weird seeing this movie for the first time?
Oh, yes. Imagine when your children, you've got little twin boys, Billy and Curtis. Imagine that what you're telling them now is going to be shown on the screen if they become screenwriters. And you're going to sit in a big theater and you're going to hear your words coming back at you. Oh, it's scary.
Really? I better get ready.
What's the difference?
But this, I always love this because you and I we always could bond over intellectual intricacies, you know, and that's what the end of that scene is for me. But then, of course, rock and roll must go.
But you were my ally, and I needed one.
But the movie did bring you and Cindy together, brought our
Yes,
family together.
that's right.
So let's just say that.
I just talked to her yesterday.
I think I always felt,
Oh, I love this scene.
you know,
Oh, I
you
love this.
skipped me grades, man. This happened. I actually thought I'd be appealing to girls. It never quite worked. These were key years to have skipped.
Hey, guys!
But this happened.
Oh, I'm so glad you kept this in.
He doesn't have any teeth.
Thanks.
How old are you, man? He's not.
I'm a little sorry that it actually happened in real life, but yeah, that's right.
Oh,
There was a guy named, well, I can't say his first name because who knows, but his last name was Tobin, and he just ridiculed me for being younger,
and
and
shake them off. I love it.
and for me being slower in the pubes department than he was. He was an adenoidal freak, this guy. But I always remember his face just screwed up in some insane expression going, don't you know? Don't you know you're so young? Don't you know? And it was like, wow, why the anger, man? But anyway, I always remembered this car, which is our country sedan,
Yes, white.
a white country sedan,
Yes.
which John Toll, the esteemed cinematographer,
There it is.
we hailed. He doesn't like to shoot white. So, under great duress, John shot this white car
Thank you, John.
beautifully. Thank you, John. And I want to say a lot of things about John Toll. But this scene actually happened. And,
Ouch.
you know, I know you had the best intentions.
Busted.
Cindy just wanted to bring it all out.
Nobody
And my memory of it is the shot that you're going to see from the back seat, which was a combination of,
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. I kind of had a Coen Brothers look at the world from that back seat. And
Great. Big deal. I'm a year younger.
I remember this.
16,
I remember those seats, too. It was so great to get all the details right.
aren't I?
I also put you in first grade when you were 5. And
Although sometimes I think the crew behind my back were saying, there it is.
Don't be clear.
That's what I remember. Sometimes I think the crew, when I'd go to like 18 takes of somebody saying some inconsequential thing, they'd kind of look at each other and say, you know, therapy might have been a little cheaper.
You're 11.
But
There it is.
yeah,
11?
Joe Hutching, our wonderful editor, Sar Klein, Mark Lavolsi, we worked really hard on this scene.
So skip kindergarten.
You know, when does the kid scream and how loud and all that stuff. And we went for loud.
Here it goes.
This explains so much.
This is one of those days we just parked by the side of the road, I think in the valley, doing this scene.
But Cameron, it wasn't my fault that you were skipped. You skipped the 5th grade. You went to the classroom and someone had switched the signs, 5th and 6th grade. And 10 days later, you said, "Mom, I'm in the 6th grade." And I said, "No, you're not. You're in the 5th grade." He said, "I'm in the 6th grade." I said, "Oh my God, they must have made a mistake. Do you like it? Are you doing okay? And you have made some friends now?" And he says, "I like it." And I said, "Do you want to stay or not?" He said, "I want to stay." And that's what happened. That was the third bump.
And that was the 3rd grade I skipped. But do you remember saying to me, "Go to Europe, take a look around,
That's verbatim.
follow your dreams"?
Exactly what I said. How did you remember?
Oh, it's only indelibly marked in my psyche. So,
but you did go to Europe and you did take a look around.
Yeah, I did with Led Zeppelin and other bands, and that's what the movie's about.
Right, and Irving Azoff.
Irving Azoff was
Daddy and I had to go to L.A. at that time to get your passport.
That's true. That's true. Went with the Eagles. Yeah. That was my shirt. That's my actual shirt. It was a competition striped shirt.
Where's the $20 we used to keep by the door for your gas money in case you ran out of gas?
I put that scene back in, and we're going to see it a little later.
Okay.
All right. Gee, I still don't get bossed around by my mom, do I? So now this is based on a photo that we actually had when my sister was leaving the house one day. She had curlers on, and the picture was so amazing because it said, "I got to get out of here, and I'll take the curlers off in the car." And so that dress is beautifully captured by Betsy Hyman, and the top and the hair. And
those curlers were orange juice cans, frozen orange juice cans that they had. They don't show them in the movie, but in real life she had frozen. That's what they used in the 60s.
She said to me, "One day you'll be cool." And she also said, "Guys mature better later," I remember Cindy said. But I love this scene. This is also a tribute. This guy, Daryl, is a tribute to a man named John Seipold, who was one of my sister's early boyfriends. He looked like Stephen Stills. He was one of the best-looking guys I'd ever met. I remember him, and he was a swim team captain. And he was Cindy's first real hardcore boyfriend. And he died a couple of years ago. He died before the movie could come out, which is a real shame because we really loved John Seipold. This is
that was the bag.
That's the bag.
That's the exact bag. I saved it. Yeah. Oh my goodness, Cameron.
Yeah, and these were a lot of the same records.
Yes.
I put a few back.
See, it's not so bad to be a pack rat.
Hell no.
Yeah. When you moved to LA, I saved all your stuff. Everything was in the room waiting for Almost Famous.
Yep, it's true. Untitled. That was the first bootleg I ever got. That's the actual copy. I'm happy that y'all came down. Great bootleg, Tenny Neal fan. CSN, Jimmy. We put a few extra albums in this. Someone said, "It looks like he's fondling Joni Mitchell in a sexual way." I said, "Come on, he's just loving Blue."
Well, you know what Freud said, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Exactly. That's my mom. That's Elaine Miller. So Cindy actually did do this, left me her records, and it was the only one that's actually not time accurate, and it's one of the few little obvious purposeful mistakes, was Blue. Blue came out a couple of years later, but I love the album Joni Mitchell Blue because it's personal, and it's shamelessly personal, and it probably aches for her, and I think she says she doesn't really listen to it that much. And I thought that's a standard to hit for the movie. This movie's got to ache, and if you pull punches in a coy or precious way, why do it? So it was kind of hard day to day to just be a cop on yourself. And it's funny how the movie turned out to still be kind of, worshipful in the right way, because I think to be a fan is an important thing, and it's good to protect that. And the movie, more than anything else to me, feels like a fan's love letter. This was a scene cut from the movie. William Miller is too young to drive, or I still can't say that word in front of my mom. I wouldn't. Should I? I shouldn't say it, right?
No.
Okay, good.
You don't say it.
So William Miller is too young to drive or fuck. Oops. Anyway, a version of that actually happened. And there's Laura Nero. These are these are scenes I'm very proud of with Philip Seymour Hoffman, who plays Lester Bangs. And Lester was an important guy in my life, and I met him in just this way, corresponded with him, told me he was coming back to his hometown, San Diego, which I had the same hometown. And I met him at this radio station, KPRI, and we went back and filmed in the exact same location, which was an insurance company, and we refitted it to be KPRI with help from Gabriel Wisdom, who's one of the big-time DJs in San Diego.
Who was a woman in this film?
Now she becomes a woman, Alice Wisdom. A little tribute to my mom in there. This was the Guess Who shirt. I had the Guess Who shirt that Lester was wearing that day because they had been sent out to the press. So that was what Lester looked like. This is what he talked about, this live version of American Woman.
Brilliant piece of gobbledygook ever.
It is the most brilliant piece of gobbledygook ever. I challenge anyone to go out there and find live at the Paramount the Guess Who. It's ridiculously great. Anyway, elsewhere on the DVD, there'll be a little special surprise. Will be the first take that I did with Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs. It's an interesting thing that happened. But he was channeling Lester for sure.
Oh, Lester was there whispering over your shoulder throughout the whole film.
It's true. This was the first thing we shot with Phil Hoffman, who really took time out from a very busy schedule to completely do the homework, study Lester, study tapes of his voice. In between every take, he'd put on a headset and be listening to an interview with Lester.
Cameron, you're such a perfectionist. This is the exact street where this took place.
That's right.
You would have no other. You went down there and checked it all out for days till you found the exact street.
Yeah.
And this is it.
Yeah.
Hey, you like Lou Reed?
The early stuff and his new stuff.
And this was the conversation I had with Lester. The one thing that he said that's not in the movie, or a part of it, it will be in there in this extended version. But one of the things he said is, and I realized that he was like a rock softy, like a tough softy. Is he said, "Yeah, I'm going to go and drive by the house of my old girlfriend that broke my heart. So I'm a little busy today." And I just thought, wow, tough as nails, but he's going to be weeping outside his girlfriend's house in about an hour and a half. And this was something the editors and I tried to get right the whole time, which was how to transition into the next scene. And finally, getting this together for the Untitled DVD, we nailed the edit. So here it is coming up. And this is what it felt like saying goodbye to Lester that day.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Oh, I love that scene. That should have been in the video.
Bye.
Bye. You need a ride?
No, man, I took the bus. Yeah, because once you go to LA,
I think there's not enough movies that take
time.
the time
Yes.
to really do that.
That's right.
And it's one of the great things about being able to put the longer version out. Because it's film. We have it. It exists. And in the spirit of bootlegs, if you liked the album, you're going to be interested in the alternate takes and the extended versions. And my only apology is that you don't have to go to a swap meet or illegally purchase it. Because that adds to the whole clandestine idea of a bootleg. But this is the bootleg. Almost Famous, the theatrical version, really is the version. It's kind of built for the world. But this is the one where you can sit at home, put it on pause, go get a beer, make some phone calls, come back and stay on the road with Stillwater, go to another city. And it's what we went for. This version that you're watching is very close to the original script.
The original version that I saw was like about 4 hours long. Did you have to just cut it down for pacing? Did they? pretty much just make you do it for pacing reasons, or?
No, we started showing the movie. We showed an original version. That's Ivan, by the way. Hello, Ivan.
Hey.
We showed the original version in San Jose, which was pretty much this version. And it felt like we were telling the story, but it definitely tried the patience a little bit of most of the viewers, because the movie was intended to give you a feeling. And if you stay too long, that feeling is going to be flecked with restlessness. And for theatrical experience, the 2-hour-plus version that we have really does say what I want to say, and it doesn't challenge you to pick through a lot of details to get there.
It's your catharsis.
This is the best of everything we shot, this longer version, and it just says, okay, dig in, let it roll.
Oh, memories.
And it's like, but I'm dangerous in the editing. By the way, I love this guy who says I want to get high.
Oh.
He's my favorite extra.
Yes.
Here he comes. Oh, do I love that guy. Couldn't get enough of that guy. But I'm such a fan of details. Like, I love studio chatter on records. Like, I like to hear the producer saying, "Take 3. That guitar's out of tune." So I'm dangerous in the editing room. I'll put all that stuff in. And we put a lot of stuff into this. Here's our family doctor's children in the background, the Rays, right?
I whistled louder. I whistled. That's the way of it. Really loud.
Mom, do the family whistle one more time.
Nice and loud. Remember, Cameron?
Oh, I remember. Here's the backstage of the San Diego Sports Arena. And this is the kind of scene where they go, you can find a better backstage in Los Angeles. Come on. But no, it had to be the San Diego Sports Arena. There was a real guy named Scotty who worked the backstage who was just, he just targeted me for emotional terrorism. He just really didn't believe in me. He was a short guy with a gimp leg and slicked hair and a face that looked like an old Chrysler. And this guy just didn't want me backstage. But the first time I got backstage, there was a guy named Larry Vallon who worked at Concert Associates. And Black Sabbath, it was a Black Sabbath show. And I was on the list, but this guy, Freddie, Scotty, wouldn't let me in. So finally, Larry Vallon had some sympathy. Big, tall Abraham Lincoln type guy who worked for the promoter. Came out, saw me, went and got the road manager of Black Sabbath, and got me backstage. So Larry, thanks. And the evening felt a lot like this. Here's the introduction of Penny Lane. Kate Hudson, hello. Hello.
You're not a what?
Not a groupie.
Oh.
I love that coat.
I know, it's great.
And it's July. It's summer.
That's right. The coat is in summer. Yeah. The coat, which Betsy Hyman put together.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
She's the best in the world.
She's great.
Oh,
and
Betsy.
We love Betsy. The coat really is a combination of an homage to the girls of the time who would hang out at the Continental Hyatt House. And also, I'll tell you a secret, it is mostly a tribute to Fran Kubelik's coat in The Apartment, which is my favorite movie, along with To Kill a Mockingbird. So it's kind of a strange, reminiscent tribute to Billy Wilder, Shirley MacLaine medley of a coat, and it's perfect.
It's all happening.
It's all happening. Okay, now that was the phrase. Am I going on too much? Well, I guess this is what the purpose of it is, right? Okay, so it's all happening was a phrase that came from a woman named Michelle Meyer. And Michelle was a real kind of behind-the-scenes queen of Hollywood and the rock scene. And she used to say it's all happening, and so did Rodney Bingenheimer, who's still the king of L.A. rock pop radio. And they would say it's all happening, and that spread, and everybody was saying it's all happening. So I love being able to use that.
Oh, I love this. Oh,
Of course.
Does anyone remember that? I told Fairuza how much I love this scene. If I had to save one scene in the entire film, it would be that one. Does anybody remember laughter?
Yeah.
Which really expresses the whole mood of the film.
Yeah. And it came from Robert Plant, the live version of Stairway to Heaven.
Really?
Yeah, when we showed the movie to Led Zeppelin. You can bet I was a little nervous when we showed him that and a couple other scenes. Actually,
Bruiser sent you that tape.
yeah.
Saying that line about 300 times.
That's right. Perusa, for her audition, had to say, does anybody remember laughter? And she sent a tape from New York where she went to like all kinds of clubs and went everywhere. We should have that on the DVD. She just is saying, does anybody remember laughter all over town?
Oh, she was wonderful.
She got the job,
Yeah,
baby.
Yes.
She's amazing.
I love the way the camera showed the platforms first.
Yeah. Well, John Toll and I had a conversation very early on, and the idea was the camera should be a little bit like a Truffaut camera in Day for Night, where the camera just kind of gently crooks a finger your way and says, come and take a look at this. The camera is your friend in Almost Famous. It's also a little bit of a tribute to Mad Dogs and Englishmen and 400 Blows and stuff, but we'll talk more about that later. Here's Stillwater. And I stood in that spot many a time with many bands trying to set up an interview.
I remember Cameron, I was waiting out in the lot.
You were. And it pretty
car.
much went like this. Pretty much early on, you could see the dynamic between the lead singer and the guitarist. Neither of them wanted to see the other get asked for the interview first. So you had to kind of do it as a group.
Way to go.
Guys, should we just hail Billy Crudup and Jason Lee and John Fedovich and Mark Kozlik for a moment?
Don't stop there.
They became a band.
I
Amazing.
know.
Just amazing.
I said to Nancy, my wife, who's the great collaborator, the kitchen collaborator on all our stuff, I said to her, once we make, the band was originally English in an early draft, and I said, once we make this band American, we are either doomed or we'll slip by. Because there's no stereotypes or funny accents to lie back on. You just have to be as real as you can. And thanks to them, I think we got pretty close. Who's the name of this actor?
Zach Ward.
Zach Ward. Fantastic. He inhabited Red Dog, who is the most legendary roadie anywhere of all time, really. He's the Allman Brothers Band's roadie. He's written a book now called, what is it? Tales. Anyway, you can get on his website, thelegendaryreddog.com. It's a great, great book. And he is the King Roadie. I think he's probably going to end up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Took care of me on an early story with the Allman Brothers that much of this movie is based on, my first road trip. So thank you, Red Dog. And A Book of Tales. That's the name of it. Tails. Yeah. Anyway, a little Jason Lee just on fire here.
Some money would be nice.
Jason Lee is a guy who is ready anytime, any place with the longest speech. You can't write a speech too long for him. He'll be ready to do it at the drop of a hat, and he just rips it.
He's amazing.
He is amazing.
Yes.
And the chicks are great.
When I visited on the set, I noticed.
And the chicks are great.
When I visited on the set, I noticed the Stillwater actors all ate together, talked together, stayed together, walked that sloping band walk together. I couldn't believe they were actors, and some of them were not professional musicians.
By the way, that's early mousse. That's 70s mousse, shaving cream. That actually, I used to see that a lot. And that was my tape recorder, too, in the orange bag. I don't know. I just figure, might as well go with what you had and what you kept. So,
which is everything.
And that's the actual pass from this first show I got backstage at. So, in some way, didn't we have to make this movie to clear out the bookshelves, Mom?
Well, I'm afraid we didn't clear them out, dear. They're still there. My condo is still San Diego pick and save.
Kate?
Waiting for the sequel.
Now, mysterious. How old are you?
18.
Patrick Fugit we should talk about. Patrick, is
Me too.
the embodiment of innocent fandom on the verge of adulthood, all that stuff. I mean,
That was you, Cameron.
pretty much better looking than I was, but he captures how it felt. When I look at him, I remember how it actually felt. And he came from Salt Lake City and hadn't done too much. I think one episode of Touched by an Angel, and was in like a B movie, horror movie, something about the ant.
He was eaten by ants.
He was eaten by ants. And we got his tape thanks to Gail Levin, who we should also hail. Gail is the
She's wonderful. Gail's wonderful.
greatest casting director
Yes.
in the
worked
world.
24-hour days.
20, 30-hour days, and also brought in so many great actors. I wish they were all in the movie. Many of them actually are in this long version. But Gail found Patrick Fugit, and we hired him, and we almost didn't get the movie made. By the way, I'm playing this actual song on the set when Kate's doing the scene, and it made her cry. So
Made a lot of people cry.
and Joni gave us a song. It was great. Anyway, this is a scene that I was always sorry wasn't in the movie. This is where Billy talks about Marvin Gaye.
There's a single woo at the end of the second verse. You know that woo, that single woo? I know that woo.
Woo!
Yeah. Woo. Yeah, that's what you remember, man.
Yeah.
It's the little things, the silly things.
I love Marvin Gaye, and I also
There's only one of them.
love the idea that, for all the people that say, oh, rock, it's sex and drugs, in every movie and every TV show, it's always about sex and drugs. What always pissed me off about movies that accented that too much is that they never captured how much the bands, the musicians, love music. By the way, this is a tribute to Joel Bernstein's Time Fades Away cover, the Neil Young album. And much of this movie is based on Joel's photos and Neil Preston's photos. But so many people want to lean too hard on sex and drugs. And it's fun and it's entertaining and it's cool and I love those movies. But I just wanted to get in how much these bands love music. And I went back and I was listening to What's Happening Brother last night and realized, of course, that the single woo actually happens 3 times in What's Happening Brother. I think I was thinking of Distant Lover where the ow happens once. But you get the idea. It's not like the Kashmir thing in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
But Cameron, that's why you were so amazing at 16, because what other journalists would remember all the woos?
Well, close to the amount of woos. But here's Fever Dog. We did this at the San Diego Sports Arena, and I remember standing on the stage with the guys going, you guys, Elvis, Zeppelin, the Stones, they've all stood here and they've all played, and now it's your stage. And they'd be like, Jason Lee would be like, hell yeah, it's our stage. And I'd be saying, I'm a lucky guy. This might just work. Noah Taylor is I just got to say, he is one of the greatest secret weapons.
He is.
He is one of the most talented actors
I'm in
in
love
the world.
with Noah Taylor. Noah, I'm in love with you.
We're all in love with Noah.
Oh, he's so sweet.
Noah's
so
in
brilliant.
Vanilla Sky. He is just, he's everything you want as a director.
Yes, and such
He
a kind man.
brings
So
his own soul to the movie and acts from his soul and very selflessly
yes.
to assume the role of that road manager. And he managed
And he stayed in
Stillwater.
character.
He stayed in character.
During lunch, everybody else didn't stay in character because it was lunchtime, but
Yeah.
Noah stayed in character.
That's right. And he loved the guys, and they're all still friends. But Noah, it's the little things, Without Noah, I don't know if the movie is the same. I just don't know, And to get the music and the band right was everything in Almost Famous. And so we love you, Noah.
Well, Noah's in your new film, Vanilla Sky.
Yeah.
Important role.
Yep. Completely different character.
Yes. I hardly recognized him.
Yep. He's great. There he is. So many a time was spent at this exact spot at the San Diego Sports Arena. And Neil Preston and Neil was the photographer and the still photographer on Almost Famous. And we used to do all our stories together. And spent a lot of time right here.
Anyway,
making plans for the future,
in California without her.
exchanging phone numbers,
Last summer.
meeting people,
Just like that.
saying goodbye. All happened right there. My dream was that other bands would come to the sports arena after this and go, hey, this is where they filmed that movie.
Come on, let's blow this bird.
And there's Mark Kozlik of the Red House Painters. And Patrick, who we can talk a little bit more about. Patrick just had a strange adrenaline surge this night. He was I think he sort of became Jim Carrey for this scene. He is animated.
How many
He is
times
out
did
of his
you shoot that,
mind.
Cameron?
It's great. Not this
All
scene, like
Oh.
twice. Because Patrick is just, look at him. He's like, oh. And it's great because his natural way is to be kind of
He
inward.
just matured 5 years in that scene.
That's right. Now, this is one of my very favorite sequences that I've ever directed. And not that I've had a vast amount of movies as a director, but this was number 4. And this is one of those times where you just are thrilled to be there. Everything disappears and you just go, yeah. And watching Patrick and Kate here, I think I was just jumping up and down like crazy because I loved it so much. And then we went outside on a very cold night and we filmed this. And in the editing room, I just have to say, Joe Hutching and I were looking at footage and Nancy had just written this theme that you hear. And we put this theme on the scene and looked at each other and said, well, this is the movie. This is the feeling of the movie. Patrick is, I think, a little bit in love with Kate at this time in real life. And I put a moment in that's actually Patrick talking to Kate. It's one of my favorite things in the movie.
Yes.
And it's right here.
Yeah.
He says, ask me again.
You sure?
Ask me again.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to come?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That ask me again is the real guy. And, you know, you
Look at
die
that.
for those real moments.
Yes.
Look at him. I think he
Look at his eyes.
just passed through puberty in that one shot.
No, his eyes say, you're so gorgeous, Kate. You're
I know.
gorgeous. I want you.
Yeah.
I don't think you should suggest to him to watch this director's commentary. I don't think.
Very sexy man, Patrick Dugan. And then we have a white front sign in the background, which Joe Hutching, who also grew up in San Diego, and I decided had to be there.
A what?
A white front. White front was a department store. So we put it there. So, Mom, you're about to see the full-length Daryl scene,
All right.
a.k.a. John Seipold. This was the first thing we shot in the movie. The first day, first shot.
Hey, Daryl.
And this happened. Love this guy, Jesse Carone.
Amazing.
You got to love that shirt.
So your sister's a stewardess now.
Yeah. She and Mom are still sort of. Well, I'd say not speaking, but I don't know that they ever did.
One of the reasons that
I used to do inside these four walls.
That's okay.
one of the reasons that
It's
we
my room.
cut the movie down for theatrical release is that you just wanted the kid to get out on the road. And I think there was a feeling in the theaters of like, come on, let's get him on the road. So stuff like this we trimmed back, but it's back. And when Jesse Carone as Daryl sits on the bed and reminisces about his time with William Miller's sister,
Go ahead and do whatever you were doing.
I just, I could walk away at that point and figure I'm a happy guy. It's like church, the church of the girl that dumped him.
And where was I when this was going on?
In the other room, completely unaware. I love how he just kind of makes that fist and pounds the bed. God knows what that represents. So here's the money, Mom.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Yes.
We still do that.
Yeah.
And here's that money I owe you.
That's what we used to say, but it was $20 for gas money in case you run out of gas.
Yeah.
No, I thought that was pretty good.
I've raised it to 50 now, son. Oh, I don't go barefoot. Oh, Francis, please.
This is my mom's one comment about the movie is that she never went barefoot in the house. I think we got to give that one to the amazing Frances McDormand. What do you say, Mom?
Oh, no comment. I love the performance that she did, that she portrayed me, except for that.
Well, I just want to say, can you imagine what it was like for Frances McDormand to sign on to play a very close facsimile of the director's mother with the mother on the set filming in San Diego? Can we just add that?
We bought it at the Academy Awards.
She can go barefoot all day long.
We laughed about it at the Academy
Frances
Awards.
is a genius.
Yes, she is.
And anyway, this is my old girlfriend Sue Sawyer's car, a reasonable facsimile, and this was actually the final days of the Continental Hyatt House, which has now been gutted and remodeled, and this whole lobby is gone. It was torn down about 30 seconds after we finished filming. And it was where everybody hung out. It was like a club. There's Bodie Elfman. Hello. This was like a combination of a hotel, a club, and a radio station, and a bar, and a meeting place for everybody involved in rock in L.A. If you wanted to there's Peter Frampton.
Peter Frampton.
Hello. If you wanted to interview somebody, meet somebody, if you hung out in the lobby of the Hyatt House, you would meet them or find them before too long. Michelle Meyer, Rodney Bingenheimer, they would always be there saying it's all happening. And you remember Danny Sugarman, who wrote the book on the Doors, who was also a journalist?
I remember Danny.
Danny used to hang out at the Hyatt House too. And so we were very adamant about wanting to film at the Hyatt House. It's where Led Zeppelin stayed. It's where all the bands stayed. And with the exception, hey, there's Anna Paquin. She's going to be talking about Sable Starr, one of the great groupies of the era, in a second. But anyway, I'm very proud that we got to film at the Hyatt House. Kate Hudson's character is a combination of a few girls that I remember back then. The main one in spirit is the real Penny Lane. And her name is Penny Trumbull, and she is a very noble and true spirit. Never has exploited her relationships or her experiences in any way, and still lives up in Oregon. And we tribute her in this movie.
I don't understand that. Have you ever seen The Bridge?
That's a line from a Led Zeppelin song.
Oh.
Have you seen The Bridge? So, Leonard Barr was a comedian that used to look like a cadaver. And by the way, this is a tribute to Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris.
This is such a sweet little...
Who I met in 1973. And that's Pete DeRoche and Elaine Summers singing this great song you're going to hear more of on this DVD. But anyway, Leonard Barr. Here he is.
Leonard. Blow me.
Okay. Very happy that's back in. When I first came to the Hyatt House, I saw this guy Leonard Barr, who was about 50 years older than anyone else hanging out in the Hyatt House, and he just sat around, standing around, whatever, scowling at everybody. And I recognized him from the Johnny Carson show, and this was like one of the first celebrities. You know, I mean, he'd been in my home. I had an intense personal relationship with Leonard Barr, and I went up to him and I said, "Hey, you're Leonard Barr, the comedian." And he said to me, "Blow me." So Leonard is no longer with us, but hopefully he lives on in the extended version. The movie I always thought should be a feeling. As much as anything else, it should give you a feeling. And scenes like this were very important just to show the camaraderie of the bands and the way the people were together while all this other stuff was swirling around and sexual liaisons were happening and dope was being smoked and all this stuff is part of a big circus. But really, it's about the club of being together. And when you get invited into that club, you never forget it. And I never forget that feeling of belonging that happened when I did escape from San Diego and come to LA and hang with the bands. And that was a big feeling that I wanted to capture in the movie. And this scene, I think, does that.
Hey, man.
How worried for me were you back then, Mom?
I was worried, son. Believe me. I was. I would arrange with your teachers for makeup tests of the makeups of the makeups of the makeups of the final. And then I'd get that call, Mom, sorry, I'm not going to be back next Wednesday for that test. So I had to make adjustments.
You were so worried, though, that I was going to get on dope.
Oh, of course, because drugs were just very common and they were accepted. Poor people really realized some of the long-term subtle effects of them. It was just accepted, and I knew from a lot of the literature I'd read about the long-term effects, so I was concerned. So that's why the family line was, don't take drugs.
Don't take drugs. But I didn't. As a little guy hanging around with bands, I would see drugs, and they would offer me drugs. I mean, the first time I interviewed Humble Pie that first night, Steve Marriott offered me a big hash joint and a Heineken, and I said no. And that was the first time I heard this, which was echoed for years afterwards. He'd say, "Do you want this? Do you want this joint? You know?" And I said no. And he goes, "Good, more for me." So I used to hear that all the time. They'd offer me Coke and things like that, and I would say no, and they would say, "Good, more for me." Like they were all thinking of it for the first time. And I think now journalism is such that people would write about things like that, but I always thought my job was to capture, again, what it was like to have a front row seat, to be on the road with the Allman Brothers, or to be on the road with The Who. And that my duty was not to skewer and hang some of my favorite bands, but to capture what it was like to be in that inner circle making the music. And generally, it wasn't about drugs.
And Cameron, you did, because that was a critical year. Right after that, it changed. Everything changed.
Yeah.
The whole scene changed. The music changed. The temper of the times changed, and you've captured it.
Well,
this film.
The movie is set in 73 for a reason, because 73, I remember somebody said to me at the time, this is the last business in the world where a hippie can become a millionaire. And before too long, those hippie managers that were there early got usurped before the band even left their hometown.
Right. The conglomerates took over.
And, great music has happened since. Great music happens every minute of every day. You can find it if you look for it. But there was kind of a glorious naivete, yes, flecked with, all kinds of other stuff, and toughness in the relationships between men and women certainly was there. But there was a glorious naivete that I think the movie did justice to.
That's an amazing scene there, Cameron.
I know. That was the ice room scene. I'm glad we put that back in.
Yes, I am too.
Billy was great in there. I love when he says, "You retired like Frank Sinatra is retired."
Oh, I love this. The fact checker used to just get so upset at the fact checker at Rolling Stone. I wonder if she saw the film and recognized herself.
There were a few of them. What can we say about Terry Chen as Ben Fong Torres?
Oh, wonderful.
I don't know where one guy begins and the other ends anymore.
Really?
Terry Chen spent a lot of time with Ben Fong Torres, and
hardworking band makes good.
They he's speaking exactly like Ben, wearing shirts exactly like Ben. Ben came to the set one day and said, "This all looks good to me, but I never wore shirts like that." Like, what? It was a real lesson in the rose-colored glasses that we all put on, because Ben only wore shirts. Jackson Browne in the background. And also, do you remember turning me on to Mike Nichols and Elaine May, Mom? That's why that record is there.
I still have the record. I still play it, and it still works. It's wonderful.
One of the great
wonderful.
One of the great gifts that the movie brought to us is Mike Nichols called after he saw the movie and just loved it, and that his wife Diane Sawyer turned to him and said, "Gee, you're a featured performer in that one scene." And I was proud of that because we put that record.
We love it.
I tried to get that record in almost every scene. Finally, we got it in that one.
That T-shirt's so great.
I know. It's a facsimile of Lester's own shirt. Again, thanks to Jim DeRogatis for getting us some of the research materials. And Jan Uhelski, who lived with Lester at the Cream House in Birmingham, Michigan, with Dave Marsh and all the others. This was a conversation I had with Lester. It's too bad you never met Lester, Mom.
Oh, I feel as though I did.
Yeah. Jan, it really helped us with the details on this. That's the kind of chicken that Lester used to get. And it's there. And
I think he called the house.
He did.
I think I took some phone calls from him. I think I did.
No.
So this is a scene.
Oh, that's my dress. That is my dress. Yes, it's identical. Oh, Betsy. Betsy's so great. You gave her pictures of me during that year, and she had them handmade. Exactly. It's so strange to see my clothes.
Well, let's talk about the Stairway to Heaven scene that was cut out, where you were a featured performer, Mom. It will appear on this DVD elsewhere, your entire scene. It's where William Miller plays Stairway to Heaven for his mom to convince her that rock and roll is intelligent and literate. Remember those moments?
I remember it. You shot it all day. Like 6 hours worth.
Okay, easy.
Sorry.
I do a lot of takes sometimes. Anyway, Herb Alt, who works with John Toll and Randy Woodside. These are a great bunch of guys and a gift to any director because we wanted to get the bus scenes feeling different. Most people they have a jittery camera and they kind of live with the fact that a camera is going to bump a lot on a bus. So generally you see bus scenes and they're all kind of tense and bouncy. And what we wanted to do was give it a flow and make that bus the world of Stillwater, where you could move in and out of all the different things going on. And Herb built a dolly that's on the top of that bus. So the camera is moving on a dolly. So it just kind of smoothly enters all these lives. And it's really a brilliant thing. So you can see the track up there. Designed to be part of the bus, of course. But anyway, we would drive around these long stretches of roads in Sacramento, wasn't it? Was it Sacramento?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Sacramento and the Mojave Desert. So we would drive back and forth and do these scenes, and it was sweltering. And one of the great shooting stretches of the movie. I did Kate's top in this, don't you, Mom?
Yes, I do.
That's a Betsy original, the Buckaroo. J.J. Cohen plays one of the head roadies there. We love J.J. That was an image that I always had in my mind, the kid waving to you.
Betsy deserved an Oscar for the costuming. It's absolutely brilliant and so very, very accurate.
But that was my shirt. Come on, Mom.
I think that's the one you wore to school, and the nun sent you home and said, you sent your boy to school wearing his underwear.
Now, I would like to...
That's true.
I would like for you to sit here and watch this scene with me, Mom.
I sent a note back and said, it's not his underwear.
This guy kicked
me out.
Wasn't he great? I love it.
Tell her to stop.
I know. She freaks me out.
Billy Crudup actually playing, this is his instrument. He learned to play guitar like 6 weeks before with the help of Peter Frampton before we started filming, but piano was his main instrument. Billy called our house recently and said, I just want you to know I've still I've stayed with the guitar. I play it all the time. I'm getting really, really good, and I want to play you this. And I heard this electric guitar in the background going. He's great. Simon Kirk from Bad Company is by the pool. We filmed this in the Marilyn Monroe room at the Roosevelt Hotel in Los Angeles. They say the room is haunted. I agree. It was nothing but chaos and mayhem. Bijou Phillips, took her top off and freaked out Patrick Fugit, poor guy. It distracted him a bit.
Yeah. I'm sure it's very traumatizing. I'm sure,
yeah.
He can't get over it.
It's probably one of his favorite moments of the movie. But it was just, I remember John Toll saying, it's like a Roman gladiator arena, and just throw them all in and see who's bloody and who survives.
La Dolce Vita, 73 style.
God, you don't want to see the outtakes from the stuff that we did with the girls in that room. Feruza, wasn't she really sick with a terrible toothache? Oh my God. Marilyn is still there, wreaking havoc. Oh, and that was Ana Maria Quintana, mother of Pedro, playing the maid, and then the great script supervisor, and oh my goodness, and Lisa also playing a maid there. This is the Mac Daddy of scenes that didn't make it into Almost Famous. This is Kyle Gass of Tenacious D playing the great Quince Allen, who is a late night mind tripping DJ. This was based on a real episode.
The guitar and songwriting of Russell Hammond. The vocal stylings of
Jeff the Baby. Just Baby.
the Bay.
Baby.
Jason capturing the pain of the unappreciated singer. I was running behind on the movie. We had very complicated days, and I was running behind on the movie. And this is one of the days where someone from the studio came to kind of check in and see how I was doing.
Oh dear.
And I remember being on the phone saying things like, "This is an important document, here we got to get it right, and we're doing this stuff, and it's for posterity, and it captures the time." And they came to visit me during this scene
And shut down the film.
Well, thank God, no. But God knows what they thought, that we're smoking dope and the guy's falling asleep, and it's not real dope, of course. But let's just say the scene didn't feel like the next Best Picture nominee. But it's one of the scenes that we all love, the people that worked on the movie, because it's the whole band of Stillwater, and we all love Tenacious D, and Kyle is just the funniest guy.
I want to hit that delay button there, Quincy.
And this happened with Neil Young. The DJ fell asleep and left Neil Young with an open mic on Los Angeles radio. And we shot a couple different versions of the scene. One where the band just gets up and talks for a while, and then gets up and leaves after a while, which is what Neil Young did.
Why the fuck do you have to wait till an interview in Arizona to say?
But the one we used, or almost used until now, is the one where the kid, William Miller, gets to see what's truly brewing beneath the surface between Jason and Billy Crudup's character.
Seriously, then who's fucking?
And I love John Fedovich as Silent Ed, who's more eloquent with his silence than most people with dialogue.
It's my fucking job, and I think you're all geniuses, and I just like
great.
Folks out
and
there.
Here's Mark Kozlik in his acting debut from taking a break from the Red Hot Chilies. Just dealing genius there.
The love thing, your mind is starting to take effect. They've all come to watch you swallow fire. You scream. Soundlessly. On the night circle.
I think that went quite well.
I thought that went well.
Oh, life is good when Quince Allen is back in the movie. Guys, Kyle Gass is Quince Allen.
Here.
Is this Marianne with the pot?
Oh, this is such a fine. Oh dear. Memories. Oh.
Oh, man.
Was this an actual event that took place or not?
Oh, yes, indeed. That's the Soch 101 test that he didn't show up for the umpteenth time. I think you got a C in that class, Cameron.
Funny.
C minus.
27 years can pass and yet no time pass.
You should be really proud of him.
Perusa.
I know, men, and I'll bet you do too.
This was
He
great.
respects women, and he likes women.
Perusa, for reasons perhaps
I'm out of thin air.
we'll talk about some other time. Perusa ended up getting this scene. Wasn't originally scripted to do it.
He's still a virgin.
Stepped in and did the scene.
Oh, so well.
You know?
Really
Without reading
wonderful.
that to my own parents. So there
Love
you
that
go.
line.
This is the maid speaking, by the way.
And that was a tough one because This is the Maid Speaking, by the way, was good on Frances and Perusa. So you had to choose. And in the end, we went for the horror of Frances as the mother. But Perusa really
I'm glad you did.
delivered it. Yeah, I'm glad she ended up
Right.
doing that scene.
But that actually happened. I did have to call your Social 101 class.
But
Teacher.
you were a teacher, so you were able to speak teacherese with the other teachers.
No, but 3 delays, Cameron, 3 makeups.
You'd still like me to go to law school, wouldn't you?
Of course, I'm waiting. Your application is a little yellowed and green, but it's there.
But you're to blame for this. You're to blame because you're the one that
It was going to be your hobby, sweetheart.
you're the one
remember?
that turned me on to Carnal Knowledge and Mike Nichols and
I
took me
know.
to see Medium Cool, an X-rated movie when I was 12 because you said it was a social document.
Oh, I was on.
It's your fault. Come on, and you even got to meet Mick Jagger.
I did, but I forgive you, Cameron.
I
Fine.
just wanted for anybody listening, because we are into the achingly personal aspect of our audio tour. We had a press party after the book Conversations with Wilder came out, and Mick Jagger was invited, and he showed up. And my mom actually spent more time talking to Mick Jagger than me that night. What was that like?
Well, he's amazing because I've seen his photographs and then I saw him in person and he looked so young. He's quite good looking in person.
Okay, you see how it happens?
Yeah.
Rock is evil until you meet Mick Jagger. Suddenly he looks great. Wow, Mick and I.
Well, I asked him, I said, may I have my picture taken with you? And he's, well, of course, darling. Put his
Thank
arm
you,
around
Mick.
me and said,
Thank you.
You too.
Yeah, so he came to me and said, please get your mother away from me.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. He was great. Now, this is an important scene, and this is where Billy really got the character, I remember, and he felt it. Billy's got tough standards for himself, and that's one of the reasons he gets so deep, works so hard, and makes it look easy.
He's a superb actor.
He's a superb actor, but he doesn't cut himself a break easily, which is part of his process. And I think he finally felt like he was getting to the core of this character in this scene. And
Now I don't hear it.
it's so great. These are hard lines to do, I think, because it's sort of lofty and poetic what he's trying to say, and it's a musician opening up, but he's also manipulating that kid.
You know what I'm trying to say?
So he's honest and dishonest at the same time, while being honest to his own love of music. And it is the beginning of the kid truly selling out, because the kid chooses belonging and friendship over journalism.
That's right.
Hoping, of course, to solve all of the problems, belonging and being a good journalist. But this is where the dilemma of the movie hits home. And Billy, I mean, people spend a lot of time in audio commentaries going, oh, this was fabulous. And, oh, didn't we nail this? You know, but
We trust you.
he was
Larry Fellows,
effing fabulous in that
how
scene.
would you describe
Oh,
your
here's
role in
one of the
Stillwater?
rare
What is the chemical you add to the
interview
chemistry?
sequences.
I'm a bass player.
Right.
Notice the
And
rain,
when you
which will set
take
up the
that
electrocution
away,
scene later.
What would be missing stylistically? What chemical?
Bass?
The bass? to talk about that previous scene.
Okay.
The previous scene with Billy was a combination of a conversation I had with Ronnie Van Zant of Leonard Skinner and Glenn Fry. Glenn Fry from the Eagles told me, just make us look cool. And I didn't realize how subtle the manipulation was. And I don't even know if he did, but he was one of the coolest guys that I had met at the time. Ronnie Van Zant I used to write about Leonard Skinner a lot. Love Ronnie, still do. It is one of the great tragedies that he died early. And Ronnie said to me not long before he died that there was a member of his band that he was really, really just feeling a lot of conflict within himself over, because he wanted to fire this guy, but he had loyalty and couldn't do it. And Ronnie died without having done that. But he opened up to me and told me that, and I wasn't sure if it was as a journalist or a friend, and I never wrote it. But that was kind of the subtle line when you fall in with a band and you're on the inside. That line changes a lot, or as James Brooks would write, it's a tricky thing. The line keeps moving. And but those feelings are still fresh in me, and that's what the movie's about. Meanwhile, we have Mark Maron as the promoter.
That's Mark Maron?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And Noah Taylor, and he really got into it. We shot this at the LA Coliseum, so we put the full fight in. Finally, they had to come up to us. The sun was coming up. We had to quit filming anyway, but people came up to me and said, "Hey, man, it's getting a little rough, isn't it? Getting a little rough." I love that Noah goes back inside and then decides, nope, more fighting.
That's Noah.
Look at him.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah, he wanted to add this kind of martial arts thing to it. So here was my big here's my big first experience with special effects, later to blossom into more on Vanilla Sky.
Oh.
But this kind of move came from Jocelyn Town, who was the stand-in for Fairuza, who was rehearsing this scene, and I saw a playback where she ran into the wall, and I said, "Oh my God, that's hilarious." So Fairuza came in and did it a couple of times with not a lot of padding. Thank you, Fairuza. Hope your arm's okay. And the first time we showed the movie, it was the biggest reaction we got.
Yes.
And we used to say to each other, at the very least, people would say later, "Hey, remember that movie where the girl runs into the wall? That was good." So that was our big action sequence. When I talk about the movie creating a feeling, this was one of the big sequences that
It's a lovely scene.
we worked hard on this. John Toll and I wanted to capture a mood. We knew we had this music, hopefully. Later, we showed the movie to Led Zeppelin, and this was the song where Jimmy Page said he felt this was the best usage of their music, of the other stuff, of all the stuff of theirs that we used.
Well, they've never let their music be used in films.
They let us use a little bit of Kashmir in Fast Times, but then nothing after that. And this song was one of 5 that they let us use.
This actually happened.
Yeah, versions of this happen like crazy. The passing word outside world outside the tour bus. That was an actual girls' running team. I think they were all back at the bar with Mark Kozlik later, weren't they? The entire girls' running team. We added a little bit more to Kate here, and I think elsewhere on the DVD, let's just say we went to a lot of takes for one particular line that didn't even end up in the movie, but it's here in the extended version. I think Kate's amazing in this scene. She just captures that spirit. And that's how Penny Trumbull was. She was a guardian of the music as well as a muse. She cared most about the music. And it was a holy thing to her. And that was a big inspiration for the character. There are little bits of it that have its roots in women like B.B. Buell, who I met down the line, who were just these larger-than-life characters on the arm of some of the people I was interviewing. But at the very core of the Penny Lane character is Penny Lane, Penny Trumbull.
But Cameron, I have a question. During this period of time, a lot of these girls were 16, 17. And
one of the most famous ones was 14.
Well, what about their parents? Did they ever go home? Or I didn't understand how that worked.
I remember talking to some of them about it, and a lot of times the parents were young because they were young. And the parents sort of, John Toll, thank you very much. Look at this flare. Beautiful. A lot of times the parents got off on it vicariously.
Really?
Their daughter's going off with the Who or something,
That's
it's wild.
interesting.
We went to go see the Cigaros, great Icelandic band, the other night, and they had seen Almost Famous, and one of them said they really related to the scene where the lead singer got left behind.
In the bathroom. Out of the bathroom. I love that touch.
Here's John Fedovich as Silent Ed, doing more with the 2 words of his dialogue than you could ever imagine.
I think he stole your film.
Francis is really great in this scene. I at the time thought it might be too dramatic, and we reshot it to be lighter. And Francis, of course, you were right. When you throw the phone down in this scene, it just says everything. And she told me she wanted her son to see this later to get a glimpse of what parental love really is.
And anxiety.
And anxiety. This sequence, as we started to run out of money to film the movie, a few scenes got cut in this sequence. So I will talk you through a few little empty spots on our shooting schedule. You can't really tell with the finished movie, but if you read the script, you can see a few of the things that we meant to film in here. One of them was Jeff Beebe's secret coke problem. And the kid was going to walk into, this is one of my favorite scenes, we never filmed it. The kid walks into a bathroom and he sees Jeff Beebe with the local cocaine dealer, who's going to be played by Eric Johnson, good friend of ours from Seattle, great actor and road manager of Pearl Jam and Neil Young and Soundgarden. But he was going to be in there accepting some coke. Eric Johnson was going to have this coke spoon out, and Beebe was going to be there just about to do some coke. And the kid walks in to take a clandestine note, and they see each other like 2 dogs on the highway. Both of them are seeing the other doing something they didn't want the other to see. So the kid goes, "Hi." And Beebe says, "Hey." And the guy standing next to him, Eric Johnson, says, "Hey." And the kid goes, "Hi." And then they both go their separate ways and pretend that they didn't see the other. But that scene preceded this one. So Jason, and we put a line in that shows you what Jason is playing. Jason is playing a guy who's a little high on coke in this scene and is hiding his continuing coke problem. So you can see that alluded to in this scene. It ended up working without the secret coke problem, but I kind of like that the one line that alludes to it is back in, along with an extra mention of Ian Gillan from Deep Purple.
T-shirts are gone. Band happy, all right?
Can we just skip the vibe and go straight to us laughing about this?
I can't tell you how many dressing rooms I was in where things like this happened.
How can you tell? I'm just one of the out of focus guys.
And Jimmy Page actually said to me, he's our friend. He won't write it.
Good look at it, all right?
And what I would end up doing in those situations is I would later come to the band and say,
It lets you say
I want to write it,
say.
and here's why. And they would usually say, go ahead.
Pretty loudly to me.
It's a T-shirt.
I like showing Kate Hudson in the background ironing a shirt.
Yeah.
Just that touch of.
Well, it's true. It's what they did.
That's right. They also, played that little.
They all serve a purpose.
The geisha role.
There's the coke line. Are you doing coke again, Beebe? Oh yeah, all the time.
I'm the front man.
Yeah, you know, like when I saw this movie the first time, the first part of the movie, like the band seems like it's getting along really well, and I was impressed with the fact that you do see a real dramatic turn with the band, and that extends all the way through to the end of the movie. And this scene, Jason Lee in this scene, I think really does a good job of changing the tone.
Yeah, he's cool. He does a really important thing here. And Mark Koslick with his barbecue line.
Say what you want.
Cannot be underestimated.
Or harder than anybody on that stage.
I get people off.
I connect. I get people off.
See, lead singers always secretly are pissed that they've got to work harder. They think.
That you can print.
Love that shirt.
And yet, why do
I always look at that errant hair every time.
Look, you want to pretend that this isn't going to be a very big band?
It is.
You call yourself a leader of this band, but your direction allowed this T-shirt when you allowed.
We shot this in a cinder block on the floor, I believe, of the LA Sports Arena.
All right, is it my turn now? Because I think we should, for once, say what we really mean.
And it is patterned after a backstage that Joel Bernstein photographed on a Neil Young tour in '73.
Your looks have become a problem.
Break it up. Everyone out of the room for 5 minutes.
There was a scene following this one where, as Billy Crudup is leaving with Patrick Fugit, Billy runs into his father, who has come to the show with a young chickadee who he's engaged to. And the father was going to be played by Neil Young. And again, we ran out of money and weren't able to shoot it. And I think Neil's schedule was shifting anyway. But this is one of the reasons why in the story he's interested in what's real, and he wants to talk about the kid's family because he's just seen the subtle corruption of his own father, who didn't want him to play rock, but now has got a babe as a result of his son's success, and he's hanging out with beers backstage. I saw that situation so many times. I think it's not exclusive to rock. Happens with actors, anybody. Parents that weren't originally with you in the beginning come back to the lure of the spotlight.
Yes, with the young fourth wife.
Yeah.
Granny used to call them chickadees. That's where you got that, Cameron.
But anyway, so Billy, Billy is playing all those textures. Whether you see the scene or we were able to film the scene or not, that's what he's playing. He's playing a guy that just saw his own father corrupted. This guy, we decided, was Brad Pitt's father in 1973.
Cameron, you're right.
He's a good actor, and he later made a movie where he's the star, and he was great. Fever dog, they're singing in that band. Back home. It's one of the best cues in the movie, I think. Everybody knows this is Nowhere. Clay, production designers, everybody did such a great job on this house.
I grew up with that lamp.
I grew up with this
lamp.
egg.
Yes, it's one of mine. I grew up with that lamp. Perfect.
It's funny. The hardest thing to catch in a movie is just the achingly normal. Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Do I love this guy.
Love
Chris was his name, and he plays Aaron. And we added an extra line for him. He's great. There's Julia Schuler, of course, who later becomes the waving girl in the Tiny Dancer scene.
Real,
Love this kid. This is the kind of scene that they have to literally pull me away from because I'll just shoot it all day long, just for pure entertainment purposes. I could shoot this guy nodding forever.
Oh, so could I.
And I think I did.
That's wonderful.
Want to see me feed a mouse to my snake?
Yes. Hey, can I have that bitchin' belt?
That's Tom Petty's son.
I know. That's Tom Petty's dad.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
So that happened. That happened to Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. He gave a guy a belt, I remember, and Want to See Me Feed a Mouse to My Snake is a little bit of a tribute to Chuck Stilson, who I grew up with. Remember Chuck? Chuck and Mick?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Check it out, please. Don't give him
This guy standing next to Patrick really was in a bad mood the whole shoot. So we cast him as Chris Davis. We cast him as a guy in a bad mood. Now, John Patrick Amadori, who just played in that little guitar sequence, is one of our spiritual guiding forces on the movie with a tape that he sent us on an audition where he just was talking about music. And we used to watch that tape all the time as inspiration. A young guy already finding his calling in life as a guitarist. It's just an amazing piece of
I love that algae on the pool.
Thank you. We worked very hard on the algae.
I hope everyone appreciates that algae in the pool.
Mom, if you spotted it, you're the first. Thank you.
Oh.
I'm on drugs.
Yeah.
This was, we filmed this out in Tarzana, right? In a real house.
Last words. Okay. Oh, I got it.
Billy was great. His girlfriend, Mary Louise, was on the set that night.
Billy is
We were
great.
the whole time we were making the movie, we were trying to come up with a title.
I dig music.
And I remember Mary Louise having a title. Wasn't it Comes a Time? That night she had a title. That was a pretty good title.
Is that she? That looks
No,
like
she's in a chair behind the camera watching. But it was a derby. The fans, the extras were trying to come up with titles for us. The crew was trying to come up with titles. We had a big box. Everybody would put suggested titles in it. Nothing was ever as good to me as Untitled for the longest time, although I'm now used to Almost Famous. But the movie wanted to be called Untitled, like the Fourth Zeppelin album, or a painting that just was shaking off all notions of a title. But I do remember my favorite of all the submitted titles, Saving Williams Privates. I thought that was good. I really did.
Like music.
I never got to tell Billy Crudup on the set what an outstanding actor he is, and I'm telling him now.
There's John Patrick Amadori.
See what you're doing.
And I like it. Greg Allman, when I was on the road with the Allman Brothers, there was a moment where Greg turned a little dark on me. And this is a sort of a tip of the hat to a moment that happened on the road with the Allman Brothers, where all of a sudden you think, man, I'm living a dream.
A nightmare.
I'm living a nightmare.
I didn't find out about that till about 20 years later.
Well, to Greg's credit, there was only one night where he kind of began to question this kid that was been hanging around, for weeks.
Underage.
And later, Neil Preston was doing, many years later, just a couple of years ago, Neil was photographing Greg Allman. John told Flair, thank you. Was photographing Greg Allman, and Greg Allman said, because Neil Preston was on the road with us as well on the Allman Brothers tour, he said, whatever happened to that guy Cameron? And Neil said, well, he's making movies now. And Greg said, really? We really put that kid through the ringer. And the funny thing was, I had already filmed the movie about being put through the ringer. Julia, wonderful moment there, blowing kisses. I made everybody sing Tiny Dancer.
Oh, people love this.
So many times on the bus. I think towards the end, Noah just said, I can't sing this anymore. And wouldn't. So he doesn't quite sing. There he is.
There he is.
He's a little nauseous. But I always loved Tiny Dancer. One of my favorite songs, not only from the era, but of all time, from one of the great albums, Madman Across the Water. And Elton John sent us the original tracks of it. So we could separate and remix it as we needed to. And we listened one day on the mixing stage. We put up the original tracks of Tiny Dancer. and listen to it. And it is so well recorded. It's such a, I mean, it's mostly live. It was ready to happen. You could tell that song. But the amazing thing is right before it starts, Elton John goes, and you don't hear this on the record or anything, but Elton John goes, Adam Dick. What a strange name. And then he begins playing Tiny Dancer. So later, I heard from Elton John after the movie came out. And he left a phone number, and I called him, and he was in the studio doing, I guess, the songs from the West Coast album. And I talked to him, and he talked about the movie, and he was great, and liked the way we used Tiny Dancer. And I said, "Who's Adam Dick?" And he said, "Oh, God knows. I have no idea. That's all drifted away and gone now. But I'll let you know if I figure it out." So if anybody knows who Adam Dick is, it's the last word spoken before Elton John
This is so
recorded the song.
You are home.
Patrick is just in another world here.
Right. And so
Tumbleweeds blowing through his eyes. And I'm really proud of this moment. We blew off a couple extra scenes to spend more time shooting Tiny Dancer.
There's my dress.
There's your dress?
Oh,
that
yes.
was your exact
navy blue.
The geography of your classroom.
It was navy blue with embroidery. Yes, my classroom.
Or it could just be hormones.
I love this girl taking notes.
Yeah.
Paying attention to it.
Was that great?
Rock stars have
It was my son.
And they did.
It was Walter Park's idea to put this cut of the girl putting, taking notes on Rock Stars Kidnap My Son. And that was sort of what made the scene. Without that little cut, it didn't feel the way it ended up feeling. So thank you, Walter.
Yes. My whole thing is to try and make my brain go.
Now this speech, I love this speech. It's based partially on a Keith Richards interview from the day. And also it was
Instinct.
a little bit of a comment to the guys from Seattle that just made a little bit too much of a show about how they didn't want to be popular while simultaneously craving popularity. And I just thought, let's do a speech about a guy that just openly worships popularity and has figured out a theology over popularity. And so Jason brings that to life. Kurt Russell was also on the set that day and told me, I haven't acted in a few years, but watching these guys in the band do these scenes, it makes me want to act again. And he's in our new movie, Vanilla Sky. I took him at his word. This scene, of course, was not in the original movie. I love his stuff. And that shot in particular is just really evocative time. And, she also looks pretty hot. But Jason is just on fire. And Patrick, who echoed the character so much as we were doing the movie, Patrick was starting to get a little weary, I think. And the weariness that naturally happened because it was a long shoot just helped the character. You can see it. He's
getting bags under his eyes.
Some of that makeup. Originally, that song was Sloop John B by the Beach Boys on that sequence, and Nancy went in and did a new cue for the DVD release, and it's very great. Thank you, Nancy. Joe Hutching, our editor, feels that is the deepest cigarette inhale ever captured on film. I think he's right.
Yes, you used to write on your hands. I remember.
I did. It's funny, people are so hilarious with the way they're just always dying to find gaffes in movies. I'm the same way. So many people have come up to me and said, there weren't such a thing as Post-its back then. You know that. There weren't such a thing as Post-its. And in fact, it's folded yellow legal tablet pieces of paper on the bathtub.
That's right.
It looks like Post-its. It's true. Post-its didn't exist back then. But this scene did happen.
Oh, I love that hat. Okay.
I know, I love that hat.
Oh, how did you come up with that hat?
This scene, wasn't that hat planned for another scene? And we just
used to be on Feruza when she did her line from La Dolce Vita.
Right. It used to be Sapphire's character's hat, and so we figured she passed it along to Penny Lane.
And the Ludes.
And the Ludes, of course.
But I don't know.
The hat and the Ludes.
Maybe we could hang out, do some
I
stuff.
remember a
back-
conversation with John Toll about this, and he said,
Get to know each other.
I really have a problem with scenes where a character pees. And I said, I do too. But maybe it's just not about her peeing. Maybe it's about the relationship between the two of them. Let's not be cute and have a big peeing sound on there, and maybe we'll just, add a little something new to the genre of peeing scenes. And in the end, I think we sidestepped it a bit.
They were using.
I think the hat helped
Yes, it did.
change it. But
Yeah.
the idea of the scene, of course, and the reason that she is doing that is that he's become one of the girls, but he
Yeah.
doesn't want to be one of the girls.
Oh, that's it.
He wants to be the guy.
Yeah.
Your time is come.
And ironically, he gets to be the guy. And this happened to me. And the song, this was the actual performance from Midnight Special that was on TV at the time. Steely Dan. And they gave us the rights, although I think Donald Fagen said this is the single worst performance ever of Steely Dan. I'm horrified you guys are using it, but he let us use it anyway, which is great. Thank you, Donald.
And I like it that Anna Paquin is wearing 70s pants, no thongs, no, cut way high on the thighs. Those were 70s panties.
John Toll did an amazing thing here where he lights Patrick's eyes so that you can see the girls in their scarves moving around the room, which really is one of those
Amazing.
things that you can sit in the room
Really.
and you watch the dailies of and you say, oh my God, this is great.
So original, the seduction scene is expressed through the eyes alone.
Well, Patrick knew the scene was coming, and I didn't tell any of the girls or Patrick how I wanted to film it because I didn't really know. And I think they were all kind of dreading there was going to be some nude rompathon. But what I wanted it to be was a scene from the circus. And in the end, it got staged kind of innocently as a scene from the circus, which is how it felt to me at the time. And at the end of the day, Patrick was like, is that it? Come on, we got to keep shooting this. So by the end of it, he had gone from dread, because I think it's no secret he was a virgin back then. May still be, for all we know. But he was dreading it so much, and then something happened while we were filming it, and I think he just,
I'm getting good stuff out here.
he came alive. And but that's the scene, and that's how I always wanted it to be. And Nancy's cue really captured it.
Now listen,
I wanted it to feel a little bit like, again, a Truffaut film.
We're professionals here, okay? I don't need to tell you this. You're not out there to
Where you get the feeling, and it's about the feeling of being there.
And how old were you, Cameron?
Anyway, this is Ben Fong Torres.
We got this story in 4 days. Now I want to know how it
I was 15.
There.
It's a think piece about
I love the writing on your hand thing. And also, this is so good. Terry Chen plays Ben Fong Torres as a guy with no middle gears. He's either angry or happy.
Let me try and get you 1,000.
See, now he's happy.
Now it's in consideration for the cover.
It's good. Ben himself does have the middle gear. Maybe in the sequel we can do more Ben and get into more aspects of Ben Fong Torres.
Coffee. Me too. Greenville is so boring. Any other city in the world. And you.
Good morning, Ed.
The morning after.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
What?
I've never written anything more than a few pages in my whole life.
Don't worry, baby. You will.
I gotta find Russell.
Firuza just says this next line with such...
Laundry?
Yeah. I don't think it's the first time she's told a guy to take the laundry out.
What am I?
And he's not the first guy to have done it, I'm sure.
What am I?
I love what Firuza brought to the scene, and Anna, who took a small part just to kind of be along for the ride, was great. I love having this extra cut of Jason, who's actually a musician, playing in his room.
His own composition.
His own composition. Noah with Beth from Denver. And
your original backpack.
That's true. This scene was important because it's now he's ready to go home from the circus. And this is where the circus has arrested him and is taking him along for the ride.
And it sours.
And it sours. And this got cut down a little bit because this was a section that dragged a bit in the longer versions of the movie. But funny, in this new format, we put it back in. This extra here, I think her name is, I forget her name. The St. Pauli girl maid also appears in Vanilla Sky.
Where's she?
She's the girl in the elevator when Tom goes in the elevator and says, "It's a nightmare!"
She almost gets run over.
She almost gets run over. And I love this sequence here.
Hey man, we'll do the interview in Cleveland.
This is when Patrick's character gets in a bad mood. When you start to know people and they know you enough so that you just allow them to see you in your cranky mood. I love that. And what makes him more cranky is that there's such great chemistry between Penny Lane and Russell Hammond. They're a couple. They're clearly a couple. And he has to wake up from the nightmare to see the nightmare again, them together. Look at them. And they're trying to hypnotize him into being in a good mood. And he just won't go there.
That's good, man.
This is one of the scenes that got Patrick hired. He came in from L.A. to L.A. from Utah. He auditioned with this scene, and I loved his kind of sweet, bad temper. And
his stubbornness.
Yeah, his stubbornness, and it's just like, read my lips. I am not going to Cleveland. I love when he gets bitchy there and says, it's all happening. And they're entertained by him. And this look he gives right before we go to the dissolve is tremendous.
Yeah, all his eyes.
Yeah, Patrick, thank you. This was a Herculean task.
$26 in my...
A little tribute to Todd Rundgren there in the chair. Swingo Celebrity Inn was the... Once you got out of L.A., the only other place that gave you the feeling of the Hyatt House was Swingo Celebrity Inn, that lobby. So they find it again.
We're going to see my daughter, Cindy Weber,
right.
Her husband, and her twin daughters, and Caitlin. There it is. There's my daughter.
There, the real Anita Miller there and her family. This was from the great Ziggy Stardust show at Santa Monica Civic, one of the famous booths. Waiting for the Man from that show. David Bowie allowed us to have it, and that's cool. We added a little bit more to this sequence. Danny Bramson, who is my partner in all things music and more, did such a great job getting all the I love this rap. Noah about the real truth of being a Stillwater fan. But anyway, in that scene where Kate did her very tasteful nude scene, Danny brought his kid Joshua, my godson, to the set, and his eyes got so big. He was just walking around in this room, and there's Kate in the coat with sort of obviously nothing or nothing much underneath it, and she had a bottle of champagne. And I looked in little Joshua's eyes and I saw this kid is going to want to be a director really badly. And he just didn't. I'd say, Josh, we have to start filming in this room. You want to maybe leave? No. So what happens is there's Jocelyn Town and Jessica, Athena. These are all great little performances.
I'm on to you.
Jessica Campbell there was Kate's stand-in.
Yeah. He worships you people.
Anyway, this
as long as he helps make you rich.
Frances filmed her side of
I don't think so.
this scene late one night at the end of a very long day, and she had a lot of dialogue. And
Kid with infinite potential.
funny, when we put the movie together and showed it, she drew cheers for this scene. So a lesson to hopeful actors is sometimes your biggest moments have to be done at the end of a long, exhausting day, and if your shit's together, you will have done it all. And she brought the game big time.
Yes. The most frequently asked questions of me when I did a little press for the video of this film was, did this scene really happen? And with whom was I speaking? Who was I talking to?
Well, you talked to Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple, who came to our house. like Billy at the end of the movie. You talked to Glenn Fry on the phone. You talked to Greg Allman on the phone.
Yes.
Basically, when editors or people were calling for phone interviews, you'd often pick up the phone.
I know.
And sometimes you'd get into it. We only had time for one take of this because we had a whole audience in the next room. So we did one take. It's a very long take that actually goes into most of the next song. And Billy?
But it's the band rituals that just add to the flavor of the film, the texture.
Your mom kind of freaked me out.
Why do I freak people out, Cameron? Really?
You're no bullshit. People are used to the sugar-coated pill of
well, why come through
false courtesy?
Why crawl through the window when the front door is wide open?
Well, let's get Cindy. That's a good point. Well, come on. Part of the experience of rock is it's got to be a little clandestine, right? You got to own it yourself. But you were a teacher. You are a teacher. You've always been a teacher. And I think you wondered if rock and drugs and the Sodom Gomorrah of it all was an ally or a foe of intelligence.
That's true. That's true.
Brain cells. It was a battle for brain cells. That's what you always used to
My
say.
students trusted me because they knew I would tell them the truth.
And you still do.
Thank you.
This is Love Comes and Goes, one of the songs that Nancy and I wrote for the Stillwater band. And a lot of people wanted more of that. So that's why we're putting that. Another reason we're putting the CD into this. The one thing we also have the full Stillwater concert, which is great. The guys worked really hard. And you just, that's Ivan. That's one of the reasons the 4-hour movie became a shorter one because, the Stillwater concert gets to stand alone and probably should,
But sometimes, Cameron, when I would come to pick you up and after a concert in the 70s, this is what it was like. You really captured it.
Thanks.
This is what as I remembered.
We did this at the Hollywood Palladium, and I love this bow. This bow is just it says so much about music.
Showing the band rituals.
The band rituals.
Yes, that bind.
Jimmy Fallon's about to come in and kick a little ass.
Yeah, he does a good job. I had no clue that was Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, man. I
love the Rolling Stones line in here too.
Oh yes,
Jimmy had a big speech, and you'll see it in all of its full Babylonian glory here in a moment. But one thing, I just want to say, we're talking so much about the movie and the personal aspects, and I think it's fun to just let it all out. The movie was never meant to feel like the glory of us. Don't you feel that, Mom? We want it to sort of blow kisses.
Well, the adjective most frequently ascribed to you when fans and people in stores talked about it is your films are so authentic. And I say he really does his research.
Thanks, Mom. And the thing is, oh, by the way, this scene is meant to capture the exact moment when rock changes.
Oh, yes.
And as it's happening, Penny is dancing alone out on the empty arena floor. So it's all changing right here. And visually, we did a little bit of a tribute to Irving Azoff in this. Irving, who is a great friend, one of the great all-time managers. Irving rode the big ride and still does of rock in the 70s, 80s, 90s. This is how Irving had that beard.
So I brought a plane in.
And Irving was also and still is a big fan of music.
We traveled by
The movie really wants to celebrate fandom, but fans had money to spend, and when money is flying,
I travel on a pogo stick.
corporate mentality is not far behind, and this is actually just an attempt to catch that one moment. But the one thing I was saying a second ago is I never wanted the movie to feel like the glory of me. It was actually hard to make it because I have a problem with that genre. The glory of me type movie where there's a golden haze over everything, and there's always an older woman who deflowers the hero. You know what I mean? And the hero gets this ornate name that he didn't really have in real life, and it's just it's myth making of the worst kind. And I think we all worked pretty hard to make the movie a personal story that didn't drown in its own reverence, self-reverence, you know? So anyway, that was the attempt.
We were watching the 400 Blows a lot.
We watched the 400 Blows a lot because that's a movie, obviously, about Truffaut's childhood, but you feel that it was sort of ripped out of his heart a little bit.
It wasn't self-pitying.
Right.
This is a very important plot point.
I know.
Right here. This shows the big shift in the film, and as it really occurred in the 70s, in 73.
Yeah.
I think Mick Jagger will still be out there.
I think this scene was really effective in the theaters too, because I think by this point everyone was really attached to the band unit, even with the manager. Mm-hmm. And I felt like the energy in the crowd, they kind of felt like they were being betrayed. I think along with the manager. I mean,
that's a good point, Ivan. Ivan's your fan base, Cameron. It's Ivan Corona.
Whether I want to represent you.
I love it that the band thinks he's auditioning for them.
Think about whether I
but
want to stay.
He's auditioning for himself. I think we always wondered what Mick Jagger thought of that line that Jimmy Fallon said, and I hope he understood that it was a line that was said at the time, and is also a tribute to the fact that there are so few survivors from that era, and he is the dude. We love the Stones. And this is my favorite scene in the movie. And really,
one of mine.
A reason to make the movie. You look forward to shooting a scene like this the whole time.
Yeah.
A lot of times you peak early and you finally get to it and it never lives up to your dreams. But this one did.
This one does.
We had Scott Martin there playing the Rain song and a bunch of other things. People's Parties, Joni Mitchell, which is a song that we used to audition people for Penny Lane, though the role was always meant for Kate Hudson. She was the Penny Lane of destiny.
Yes.
And the one regret I have about the theatrical version, and there's only one, is that this scene didn't go on longer. So we let it play as long as, well, actually, I could probably still take it for about an hour or so. But I just love this moment because it's so much what the movie is about.
Yes.
The spirits that remain after something magical has happened.
Yes.
You can go back to a place where something amazing occurred and the feeling's still in the air. And she, of all the characters in the movie, understood music best.
And that scene shows the edge, cynical, how quickly people will sell out.
Yeah, that shot's a tribute to Annie Leibovitz's great shot of the Stones on their 1972 tour. And this is, in our continuing quest for authenticity on the movie, I called up Glenn Frey of the Eagles because I remembered when I was writing about them in the day that they had these bizarre games of poker. And I said, Glenn, we're here filming, and what was Eagle Poker? And he said, Eagle Poker was when we put the cards up on our forehead, and it's because, you could play that in any emotional or intoxicated state, wherever you are, however you felt, you could play that game. I'm like, Glenn, thank you. We're filming it tomorrow. And
Thank
you,
Glenn, wherever you are.
We love Glenn. Glenn was an inspiration for the character of Russell Hammond. He certainly felt like a big brother, and I never had a brother when I met him back then, long before the Eagles were ever huge. He was a great tour guide early on. In fact, his nickname was Teen King back then because he was so connected to what it was to be a teen fan. He was from Detroit, I think.
And he's in Jerry Maguire.
And he's in Jerry Maguire as an actor. And there's Red Dog, Zach Ward back again. Peter Frampton wanted to act a little bit as well as be a technical consultant, which was a dream come true, having him around all the time. And I dig his acting. He got a rough ride on Sgt. Pepper's. I think he was trying to march to a strange tune that wasn't his own, but just so much fun to work with him as an actor. And also he really helped school Stillwater in our rock school sessions that went on every night.
And he taught Billy Crudup how to play the guitar, didn't he?
He sure did.
This is the circus. Everybody's trying not to go home.
This, of course, is more of the subtle manipulation between star and journalist. And it's sort of like the hidden story that happens between every journalist and their subject. Whenever you read, every magazine now is filled with star and celebrity profiles. The truth is, in between the lines of every one of those articles is a story like this. What happens between those two people? What is the dance between subject and interviewer? And it's always personal.
Yes.
And it's always intricate.
And this is a great betrayal scene.
Yeah. This is when Penny realizes that she's expendable.
That her friends are not her friends.
We filmed this. I love that cake. We filmed this handheld to give it kind of a don't look back feel. And I love her betrayal.
Yes. Well, Shakespeare said, a betrayal, thy sting is sharper than a serpent's tooth. He made 16 references to betrayal, and this scene portrays the betrayal and the heartbreak of Penny. This one scene.
One of the things that, well said, Mom. One of the things I wanted to do was thank all the actors that came up to audition for parts in this movie, because there were many, and Gail Levin knows we spent months casting it.
She chose us.
A lot of attempts were made at the character of Penny Lane, and I worked a lot with a lot of actresses. Haight was already cast as the sister, Anita, and ultimately would end up getting the part of Penny Lane for a very simple reason, and that was loyalty to the movie. A lot of people were trying to get her to blow us off for bigger starring roles, and she hung in for a very small part. And she was loyal in a way that reminded me of the girls of that era. There was a lack of shameless, brutal ambition. She wanted to be in our movie, and that was that. She wanted to be with the band. She was like Penny Lane, and she became the character. And I can't think of anyone else playing it. So thank you, Kate. We invited her to come by here today.
Yeah.
Where is she?
I have no idea.
Kate, come back. We miss you. She, like so many people in the movie, ended up living out versions of their characters' lives. Kate met Chris Robinson of the Black Crowes. They got married.
She went on tour?
She went on tour. Penny Lane is still on tour. And Patrick grew up, I think, in the way that William Miller grows up in the telling of the story and in the making of the movie. We saw him recently, and his voice was deeper. And didn't he have like 12 girls hanging off?
Yeah.
Did I just imagine?
He had an entourage.
No. We also owe a lot to Jan and Bruce Fugit, Patrick's parents, that supported him going off on the road with us.
I felt a kinship to them, believe me.
This was a tough scene to get right. I love this shot. Chris Harhoff is just a brilliant Steadicam operator, brilliant eye. He's a wonderful guy. He's worked with Spielberg and a bunch of other people.
The light off of her hair.
And there's his dog, Reg.
And Chris really nailed so much of this stuff. And originally, I wanted this to be a very long Steadicam shot that traveled through the trees, and they're walking because they just had basic anxiety. But we got to it late in the day, and the light was going to go down, and we weren't going to be able to match, and all those boring technical reasons. We had to stop and do it under this large tree.
But it worked.
It did work.
Just big dramatic scene.
I wasn't sure we had it, frankly, and I was disappointed. In fact, I was distraught. I thought that I didn't film it the way I wanted to film it.
There is no Morocco.
I didn't think the actors were as connected emotionally as I wanted them to be. I had worked on the scene so much in rehearsals that it was like on the day I felt we'd peaked. And I think, Scott, I probably cried on your shoulder a little bit.
It was one of the few bad days.
It was a bad day. And
but look what you produced.
Well,
this wonderful scene.
Here's the amazing thing. I thought we were going to go back and have to reshoot this. And I even called the studio and said, we shot a ton of stuff today, including this dramatic climactic scene, but we're going to have to go back and get it.
I am the enemy.
A little sidebar here. This is sort of a personal thing. I feel that I'm dark and mysterious. Nobody agrees with me. But that, that'll be a lifelong crusade, I'm sure. Anyway,
I was there.
we're back in the editing room, and I'm working on the scene. And I sort of vaguely remember this great moment happening after Kate realizes the betrayal.
Oh,
and we were watching the dailies. We were watching it in the room with Sarkline and Joe Hutching. And I saw this take.
Oh, let's just let it stand. That's Cameron without comment. It's just so pure.
What kind of beer?
About a year later, I showed this movie to Billy Wilder, and I was very nervous about doing that because he's a real hero.
Look at her face.
And it was at that scene, at that moment, when Billy Wilder made a rare audible comment that resembled a laugh, and he basically made this sound, ha ha, which was
what an
music
accolade.
of the best kind.
What an accolade.
But we had that scene, and all because of that take, I think. And Patrick is very raw and emotional, and just a directing lesson there.
Cameron named one of his twin sons Billy after Billy Wilder.
And William Miller. I used to, when he was born, I thought he was a William. Now I realize he's a Billy.
Definitely a Billy.
This is the Gramercy Park, where many a fledgling band coming into New York State. That's, it's funny. Every department got into all the details. We have all the Stillwater albums on vinyl, and that's the Farrington Road album that a fan gives him to sign. It's a gatefold and matching Derek and the Dominoes.
They're going to have a hard time finding a gaffe in this film. Cameron is the gaffe preventer.
Liz Stauber playing the girlfriend from back home is great. I always miss this in the finished version, although I think it plays better without, where the bag break. And that's based on the fact that when I was on the road at that age, I kept stealing the phone books because I thought, I may never be back in this city. I want to have a souvenir from Phoenix. And I used to go through the phone books, and I would look at all the names, and I go, all these people, and they live in Phoenix. I'm never going to meet these people. I have to take a piece of them with me.
Oh, Cameron.
And my bag broke one day, and it was always because of those phone books. And, of course, ashtrays and pens and everything else they used to.
I know they ended up in your room.
I think I still have a lot of them. Ian Bailey playing Jan Wenner there. Worked with Jan to get the mannerisms and the perfect smoking mannerisms of Jan. Jan, thank you for letting us use Rolling Stone. And thank you for publishing those articles of mine.
Yeah.
And Rainn Wilson in the background there is playing a character based on David Felton, who was one of the grand journalistic voices of Rolling Stone at the time.
Who's now MTV, right?
Now he's working with MTV.
Bees on the sign.
Max's Kansas City. Clay Griffith. There's Elliot Roberts, Neil Young's manager. And a thrilling actor, you got to say. Hey, Elliot. See, I did put you in the movie. Max's Kansas City was pretty faithfully brought back to life by Clay Griffith. And we wanted to really capture what Max's was. Max's is the place that you went your first minute in New York City. And somebody took me there the first night I ever came to New York. Lou Reed was sitting in the back, and I just went up to Lou Reed. Somebody introduced me, and I said, "Hi, Lou. God, it's great to meet you. I have an article that has been published on the cover of Rolling Stone. Have you seen the new issue with Jackson Browne on the cover? That's my article." And he kind of looked at me and swatted me away like a fly and was walking away going, "Hey, man, Lou Reed. All right, Lou Reed. And, it was part of the lore that Max's Kansas City was always going offer you some kind of close encounter with a legend. And there were these places across the coast. There'd be the Hyatt House lobby. There'd be Swingos, Max's, these little hotbeds where you'd see the same people. By the way, that's an actress playing Lisa Robinson, the journalist there, talking to Mark Kozlik against the wall. Lisa was the other journalist who used to go on the road with Led Zeppelin, and we would always do tours together. So, hey, Lisa. The whole movie is filled really with little hellos and love notes to people.
I like that glam is a factor at Max's. Like,
Yeah.
This is the glam rock.
Because glam is now happening. Aladdin Sane has come out. Ziggy Stardust has taken a foothold. Lou, David Bowie, Iggy. It's all kind of starting to crowd out the meat and potatoes rock.
Bolin.
And Stillwater, being from the Midwest, doesn't know whether to embrace or fear that stuff, which I really like. Jason, of course, playing the lead singer that secretly dreads the fact that he won't be on the cover of Rolling Stone, that it'll be Russell.
Watch Kate Hudson in the scene. She's just so impressive.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I love the way that the wife's character is just playing such a, it's just has it so over her, and this relationship between them is really, really tense. I like it. It's.
But watch Kate. It's just wonderful. The pain in her eyes.
And Noah knowing that he's got to sort out the problem.
Terrible.
We were playing Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters during the film shoot. So Kate's actually acting to that song. It's one of the big things. Scott and I have been doing this since Jerry Maguire. We sort of have an emotional DJ session while we're filming. And it does shape what we film. Particularly on this movie.
Yeah. The actors really seem to enjoy it. It helps them.
I also love that you don't hear what's being said.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Kate kicked ass.
I think this is incredible filmmaking. This whole scene. Look at the exchange of the eyes. It's all eyes.
The eyebrow.
Eyes. Look at the way he's looking at...
well, hopefully that's the moment where you start to realize there's something going on between...
Yeah. But you got to look
Leslie
fast to catch it.
and Jeff Beebe.
Was the exchange between Kate Hudson and him scripted, and you just took the sound out, or was it never intended to be known what he said to her?
It was always intended to be glimpsed from a distance.
Okay.
And we just sort of improv some stuff.
Here's Jan Wenner. Jan used to write to me and say, "Don't worry, Mama, I'm taking care of your boy." Thank you, Jan. You did take care of my boy, except for that one scene when he was 16.
Jan came to the set that day, and we were outfitting him for the scene and everything. And I said, Jan, do you want to shave the beard, so that you're period accurate? And he said, no. It's 1973, and that is my beard. And I'm like, okay, action. He said that he ran into Bill Clinton at some point after the movie came out, and Bill Clinton said to him, "Hey, I enjoyed that movie where you were in the back of the taxi." So it's official. It is a movie about a guy in the back of a taxi, and some other scenes surrounding it.
I love that
With
movie.
period inappropriate beard.
Right. But he is reading a period-appropriate New York Times.
Cameron interviewed our family doctor for this scene, so this scene is very accurate. We went to his office, and Cameron sat down and took copious notes. So, Dr. Ray, thank you.
That is the biggest Quaalude bottle in the history of man.
Please send a doctor.
But I remember, I don't know whatever happened to Quaaludes, but I remember even at the time, those bottles were used as decorative items. I love these boots.
All those boots. Oh, Cameron, who discovered it? Is that Betsy?
That's Betsy.
Oh, Betsy, thank you.
And the kind of Japanese-style dress, which is great. I, of course, am responsible for William Miller's wardrobe.
Cameron, you wore grunge before the Seattle scene. Believe me, you still do.
Sad but true.
This band.
Oh man, what's the name of this band?
They were from a high school in San Diego.
Yeah, they were
This was
really
filmed-
Mary was the woman.
This was filmed.
There's Alice.
Pink hat.
My journalism teacher, Mr. Wilson, is also on that stage.
There's Pedro.
Okay. This scene is, as a few people have noticed, is a tribute to the apartment. Joe Hutching, our editor, would be sad if I didn't notice that this extra in the background really needs to learn to blend into a scene better. Sorry. I hate to hurt your feelings, but Joe, really, who's a very calm, zen guy most of the time, is still furious about the performance of that extra. What is she trying to do? Upstage Frances McDormand? So Joe, should we go to San Diego and confront the extra? He said,
Joe, I was in labor. Joe, I was in labor 17 hours. You owe me.
No, it's not you.
No?
We're talking about the girl right over Frances's shoulder.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
She sort of...
yeah, she stole
There's
the
Daniel Wilson, second from the end on the left as you're watching this, my old journalism teacher, who remembered an argument we had that I had forgotten. So we reconciled, and I didn't really know why.
And
there's that extra. You see, she's just like, yeah. So don't want to point any fingers. I know, whatever. I think she was friends with one of the ADs or something because I kept saying, please move that extra out of the way. But by the time we were filming, she was back. So, whatever. Just a little comment for any future extra. Blend, baby.
Please.
Blend.
Please.
No offense, though.
Back to me.
We'll give you another chance sometime.
Oh, God, why am I so nervous? You'll never
I don't know if I'd be able to get Joe Hudson to edit
I love you.
No.
Kate Hudson deserved Academy Award
Boldly go where
for her performance in this film.
She was...
What a memorable performance.
I love the noise she makes after the kiss. And she falls.
Hey, what do we got here? What's her name?
Emily.
Okay, sweetheart. Sit up, sit up.
We
sit up,
filmed
sit
a little
up.
bit
Good
extra
girl. Good girl. What's your
with
take?
the actor here playing the doctor, the wonderful actor from New York who
Oh.
just scheduled around to come in and do this.
Oh, I'm so glad he
and
did.
and the nurse too. They just did a great job.
They
making
did.
It's real.
Yeah.
They did.
Emily, wake up.
We got the two. All right, great. Here we go.
But it is a tribute to Frank Kubelik in the apartment, and I always loved the fact. And I saw situations like this where a girl that I was a little bit infatuated with, who was infatuated with somebody I was writing about, was mistreated or was suffering for some reason or another. And I just, sometimes if you're the person that's there, even though they're suffering over somebody else, if they share the suffering with you, that brings you closer together.
It's a bonding.
Yeah, and that was, Billy caught that really well.
The brotherhood of
In
suffering.
the apartment where Jack Lemmon takes that punch
Yes.
from Frank Kubelik's brother,
Mhm.
who thinks that he's responsible for an abortion or something.
Yeah.
And Jack Lemmon is just happy to take that punch
Yeah.
because it meant he mattered enough to be a threat,
So cool.
even wrongly. So Patrick himself was exhausted at this point in the shoot. And I said to him while we were filming, Patrick, we're all going to be out of your life soon, and we're not really your friends. And the poor guy nearly cried. And when I said cut, I went and told him that was a cheap ploy that I learned about from other directors. It wasn't really true. And he was a bit shell-shocked. And I think, it was a gift that he took the ride personally and took it so deeply to heart. And he was very exhausted that day. This is the longer version of the scene in Central Park. I always wanted to film in Central Park by this lake. The Catcher in the Rye, J.D. Salinger Lake. Where do the ducks go? And so we filmed there. This is the last day. This was the last shot that we filmed. And Kate's parents, Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, were on the set, and there were people from, just passersby and tourists standing around.
Paparazzi.
And it was paparazzi, and it was really emotional because this speech actually is based a little bit on B.B. Buell and something B.B. Buell said about how she got brought into the world of rock. And I just love the idea that it was a Coke with lemon that was given to Penny Lane backstage by the Rolling Stones, and she never went home.
She never went home.
This is a longer version of the airplane scene.
So accurate that it's the day after that she almost OD'd, and she's wearing very little makeup, and her eyes show the health damage the next day. So accurate.
Yeah. Lady Goodman is actually a real name. It was a friend of my friend Debbie Gold's, and Lady Goodman lives in Philadelphia. She lent me her name. Thanks, lady. I loved that joke. Never quite knew if it worked that well, but I love having it back in. We didn't get enough time to shoot the actual stewardess, who was a nice actress and did a good job. We only had enough time to shoot Kate. And this is the scene. We got use of a plane through that window, and we built, thanks to the crew, an ingenious building job. We built a little claw that went out, and we're able to get some distance to film Patrick running alongside this plane. And this was one of the other shots that made me want to make the movie. The fact that he's going to run through her fingers.
Yeah.
And I just love the way Patrick is so animated. He just jumping around. He's lost all attempt to be cool. He just loves her. And
jumping up and down.
Jumping up and down.
Well, Roger Ebert called this the best film of the year, and he was right.
And you wonder why I still hang out with my mom. Come on.
I met Roger Ebert at the awards, and I hugged him and whispered in his ears, "Thank you. You've meant so much to my son's career," because he believed in Say Anything early on, years ago, when no one else did.
He and Gene Siskel really
they did
championed Say Anything and kept the movie going.
So thank you, Roger Ebert.
I'm very happy with the thank yous we're able to send out while we're doing this, because you don't get a chance
That's right.
to see the people in, a premiere situation or something like that. You try and kind of shout in their ear, "Thank you!" But it's great to have this opportunity to do it. This was the genius of John Toll, one of the true great cinematographers. John Toll said, "Let's do a scene." And it's also one of the gifts that we didn't have, some huge superstar actors in the scene who would demand not to be subjected to what I'm about to tell you. But John Toll and I had this idea to put this whole compartment on a gimbal. So instead of doing what a lot of people do in plane crash type scenes, where they shake the camera, we shook the actors, and we shook them for days on end.
Violently.
Violently. So this is inside a sound studio.
Oh, my God. Look at Jimmy Fallon.
And he's going to vomit. At one point, Billy, right after this take, I think, Billy was crashed into the side.
Maybe I never said this enough.
Because the gimbal went out of control just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But we are violently shaking this around, and that's there's no tricks here.
No.
They are.
That's why it's so authentic.
They're riding a bronking horse.
The pilot.
And how many takes, Cameron? How many takes?
A few.
A few. Oh, look at
the pilot really got,
because he had to get up and walk.
He had to get up and walk. He got thrown around a lot. But this sequence. It's funny, this sequence was in my head for many of the early drafts of the movie. I always wanted it to be a rock movie where the cliches almost happen but are averted. One of the big cliches, besides an OD, which almost happens, is the obligatory plane crash that almost happens. So this was in all the drafts, and years went by, and I always thought, this idea feels like I could see this in another movie if I don't make this movie quickly. It just felt like one of those ideas that could get in the wind. And so miraculously, I never saw anything approaching this, a nearly averted plane crash where people tell truths right before the plane almost crashes. I thought I really had gotten away with this until the last episode of Seinfeld aired.
Yeah.
And I watched it just as we were getting ready, I think, to shoot, or we already had shot.
Oh, yes.
And there was a scene like it.
Yes.
And I, at that point, had the option to cut it, do it differently, or just continue on with the exact way that we were always going to do it, which I chose to do. But I talked to a friend of mine who was familiar with the story and everything, and I called him after the Seinfeld episode, which, half of 3/4 of America watched.
Oh, yes.
I talked to my friend, and I go like, so what'd you think of Seinfeld episode? He's like, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Did you see the plane crash scene? And they were like, yes, what are you going to do? And it was one of those things where you walk a tightrope as a writer and just decide, okay, well.
Especially when you thought of it first.
Who knows who thought of it first? But I am so glad that we didn't get scared off of it, because the two scenes are very different, and I love John Fedovich in this moment.
Amazing actor.
Yeah.
That wasn't in Seinfeld. I'm curious. I always want to ask you: did anything even similar to this happen to you in your career?
Yes, it happened twice. It happened twice. Once in 1973 on a plane on a Who tour, where I was with Neil Preston, and we were actually, the Who was not in the plane. It was the T-shirt concession guy, who was the first T-shirt concession guy I'd ever met. It was basically a guy who barely knew how to fly with a cardboard box full of T-shirts.
Oh.
And me and Neil. And
I'm glad
so the plane almost went down.
Oh my God.
By the way, I just have to savor Jason Lee knocking the wall with his fist. It's the greatest moment.
It is.
And the other time it was on the road with my go Jason. Yeah.
Boom.
The other time was with my wife's band, Heart, and the plane almost went down over Tupelo, and almost all of that dialogue happened in either exact ways or.
And you wondered why I was worried at home dropping phones, Cameron, and calling?
I knew we were in trouble when Howard Leese, who was the guitar player in Heart, who collected stewardess pins and everything and was the consummate flyer. I knew we were in trouble when Howard Leese said, "We shouldn't be here." It was like, oh shit. So that's what it felt like. I also love this moment between Billy and the kid.
And you
Patrick
also
Wave is just I love it so much.
And you also interviewed a survivor of the Leonard Skinner crash.
Well, those guys were. I was very.
As to what happened in those last moments. Yeah. How many survived?
Well,
the one who was in the swamp, and
the ones that died were the ones I was pretty much closest to. It was a rough time.
I'm not a messenger. I'm one of your.
But Alan and Gary, who were in that band, told Al Cooper and I one night the whole story of the plane crash, and it was chilling, and they knew they were going down, and they had the time, the opportunity, and the need to tell each other their secrets before the plane crashed.
In actuality.
Ooh. Anyway, I always used to get mistaken for a messenger.
Yeah.
So this was
delivery boy. That. Didn't they think you were a delivery boy? This scene, I love this scene. This should have been in the theatrical version. Didn't they say you were a delivery boy, go around the back?
That and Messenger. There's Ben. Love that shirt.
Oh, baby.
Love that stance.
And the stance.
Yeah.
Oh, baby. It's Hunter Thompson's Aspen Sheriff poster in the background.
Did you get anything on tape with Russell Hammond?
Where are you in this?
There's the fact checker. You never heard from the fact checker?
The real fact checker?
Yeah, the real one.
No, I didn't. It's funny. I heard from a lot of people after the movie, and particularly on our website.
Days to get through this research.
A lot of the girls from that era wrote in, and girls that had so much supposed casual sex. What's so funny is that they all remembered everything, and it was never that casual, even in the era of casual sex, which became a little bit of a theme in Vanilla Sky, the new movie. Is anything meaningful that happens between people ever that casual?
Cameron Diaz conversation.
Yeah.
That's so Your body makes a promise. I thought that was such a poetic line. It's so true.
Thanks, Mom. We'll just seg right into the Vanilla Sky DVD.
Yeah. Start that now.
These are Polaroids that we took during the making of the movie that we sort of wanted to reminisce with. And we did this on a soundstage in Hollywood.
Did you allow the actors to take the photography themselves, or did you?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them.
A lot of it was Neil.
And a lot of it was Neil Preston.
They want you to get drunk and feeling like you belong.
Philip Hoffman, this scene is funny. This scene changed a lot. Originally, it was a scene where Lester was storming through the apartment, just shouting advice to this guy like a warrior king. And through rehearsals and discussion with Phil Hoffman, who's a brilliant actor, and really did only have a few bursts of time to do this part. Through conversations and rehearsals, we decided to make this scene about the only two guys in the world still up.
Mm.
And they're talking with each other. And this guy is, and this was Phil Hoffman's note, Lester was lonely.
Yes.
And it's funny that he channeled Lester so carefully. It's funny that he said that and kind of kind of amazing, because I knew Lester, but I had forgotten the loneliness. And I had remembered him larger than life, maybe without some of that loneliness. But it was Phil Hoffman that said, I want to play that loneliness, because he'd studied Lester. And that's how we came across this scene, which I'm really proud of.
It's a very moving scene. I love the line, call me, I stay up late, and another scene, call me, I stay up late.
Yeah.
I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's one actor that's long overdue for an Oscar, because he's always put good work for it. I
don't think he does it for that, which is probably why he'll win.
This all really happened?
Give it to me. I'll call and check the quotes.
Someday. Soon, I hope.
I love it. That
Now, why didn't we put that in the theatrical version where he rips the... you lose your perspective.
Oh,
he's using it all.
But, Mom, Almost Famous is an ongoing experience. And I hope you meet us here in another 6 months for another version of the movie.
I'm still waiting for the sequel to the sequel. What would that be called? A trequel?
A sequel to the sequel. So you want to jump ahead to volume 3.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Great. I sound like a dick.
I love that.
Said that.
Maybe we just don't see ourselves the way we
No one
really
has
are.
ever heard Billy say you are a dick.
I know. It's
Ever.
hidden in there.
So
You guys
hidden.
going acid screaming, I'm a golden god from a fan's rooftop.
They used him to fuck us.
I'm a Golden God came from Robert Plant, who shouted that out to Sunset Boulevard when I was writing about them. And when we showed the movie to Led Zeppelin, and Billy said, I never said I was a Golden God. I heard Robert Plant's voice in the darkened theater go, I did.
You had the right idea all along.
Silent Ed.
How about the
Again,
plane flight?
doing more.
Eloquent in his
Nothing.
silence.
It's unspecific who says what. No name.
Ivan, you got to check this out. I don't think you've seen this. This is Jimmy Fallon's Mystique rap.
I told him.
We're very happy to have it back in the movie.
Was it in the 4-hour long original cut? or-
Yes.
I haven't talked to Russell yet.
Oh, you saw that version?
Yeah, I saw
Oh, then
it.
you've seen this.
Key stuff to the
This
factory.
is
One phone call.
this is
True.
a lesson in
Told you, my
mystique.
friend. If you'd have met me earlier, he would have never been around. He'll live.
As they say, mystique is 80%
T-shirts, farm
of your
outfits,
feelings about
renegotiating
any
your
particular
contract,
part of
resumes,
pop culture.
happiness, realizing your dreams, money, cool, meeting the Beatles. Let's put all of it in the pot.
There's another take of that where Jimmy
all
goes,
depends on-
meeting the actual Beatles.
Not giving too much away.
Jimmy.
I'm surprised he
I'm
didn't
going to
hang on
Atlanta
to that look after the film.
Yeah.
Before I go, let me give you a lesson in mystique. You can only have one. Which one do you want? Which one are you going to choose?
I also love
As long
Jeff
as you can't
Beebe
see
in a
what's in his
Jeff
hand.
Beebe t-shirt.
Another Robert
Below
Plant
is one.
reference.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, William. To be quite honest with you, sophisticated. It's
Jimmy,
brilliant. Now we only have to cut out a couple of graphs.
Jeff Beebe's mother. Now let's watch Ben just bail on
Yeah.
William Miller.
This was an interesting thing. Ben
Just
was so
fail.
warm and mentoring. As soon as he finds out the story is fake,
We wasted our time.
or hears that the story could be fake, he bails so fast.
To Russell Hammond.
Which Ben in real life,
He's the one who denied it.
Now wait a second.
had a little more of a caring transition.
Who? Manuscripts in my office. He
No,
should some.
see you later.
You know,
Give me a second for
you know what Grandpa used to say, Cameron? If I see you, I don't know you.
Yeah. When somebody turns.
Now explain that this really happened.
Okay, this is the one thing I have to say.
neighbors.
This is one thing where I would read in reviews or people would say, I like the movie, but this scene was so fake where the sister discovers
Just to
the
show
brother in the airport. It's just too much of a coincidence. Well, it happened.
It happened.
It happened at the
It
end
really
of the
did.
Greg Allman, the Allman Brothers story. And it's a whole other story I could tell someday, but I was really... I basically was a zombie, and I was sitting in the San Francisco airport trying to figure out what to do about this Allman Brothers piece for Rolling Stone that had blown up
You're living your life.
in pieces right in front of me, and I didn't know what to do. And my sister came by in an outfit just like this. She worked for Western Airlines.
PSA.
This is a PSA outfit.
California
She
based.
worked for Western, and she walked by and she said, "Cameron,"
Anywhere you want to go.
and I was completely trashed. She said, "You look terrible, but that's good. I've been telling you, you have to live your life and get out from home, from mom,
I think she said get out from your mom. I do believe she said that.
And what happened was she did what Anita does in this movie. She made sure I got home and took care of me. And it was an important event. And if it hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't have written it. But it did happen, so I wanted to pay tribute to that moment. So,
It's always amazing.
I know. I love the noises they make here.
Alice, was it hard for you to watch this reunion scene?
Yes, it was.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up.
I forgive you.
I came up with that on the spot. I forgive you. I didn't apologize. We only did it for one take on each side, and I'm so glad we did.
I think Cindy wanted a more traditional mom. But I think and she's used to me now.
And you're used to her.
Right.
She's a wonderful mother.
Yes, she is.
And acknowledges the same about you.
Thank you.
So one of my favorite shots.
Yes. Now you're gonna watch Noah Taylor just kind of give her a friendly, with his fist, touch her body. It's just a little intimate thing that people do when they've been intimate in the past and they're no longer, but it's still, watch it. See? It's very subtle. He just touches her.
Well, they're on the circus ride, They've seen each other in many different situations. This is a scene. It's probably... People have asked, what's the favorite thing that you're going to put back in for the longer version? And it would probably be this.
Hated each other.
This is the goodbye between Beebe and Russell Hammond.
No, maybe not. I could work on it, though.
Jason had to get on a plane and go to Toronto for the premiere of Mumford, so we were up against it on time, I remember.
I just can't picture you.
But we did come up with this idea. I thought, wouldn't it be great if when they try and hug, they're two guys who are not huggers, but they try and hug, and it's a messy hug, and they knock over some shit in a cup, and, they don't make it easy for themselves to be emotional with each other. And I love it. Love the way they did it, and I love what Billy does. And
it's why you became a director, sweetie. These are the moments.
If you're lucky, you get actors that bring it to life like that. Because without the actors, it's just words on a page. Billy has this wonderful melancholy mood at the beginning of the scene. And it was one of the few times we played music that wasn't from the era. We were playing Pearl Jam's Nothing Man. And he's listening to Nothing Man at the beginning of this sequence. And it really struck a chord in him.
William?
Well, what do you care? And we all know what you did to him. And everybody knows.
This is a important exchange that I'm glad is back in, talking about the way they'll remember this years later.
Yeah, something tells me 20 years from now, we'll remember her. Not much.
Hey, Russell.
What is that guy in the pith helmet doing back there? I can't take my eyes off him.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he's wearing a pith helmet.
No one questioned it at the time. It was completely normal.
Mistake. They don't even know what it is to be a fan. And I'm just
This is his moment of realization.
a piece of music or some band so much that it hurts.
Go, Feruza.
Hello, Penny? It's Russell. Don't hang up. I can't really talk right now.
Clay Griffith with that great blue wall in the background. That's what a production designer will give you. Good to do a shout out with to a lot of the people that are on the fringes of the movie playing roadies and people that were with us for months, and they may not get a lot of lines, but they had a lot to do with the environment. Ray Porter, who played one of the roadies, J.J. Cohen,
I can see myself.
Gary. What was Gary's last name?
Gary Douglas Cone.
Gary played one of the roadies, right?
Cameron videotaped our living room where I've lived for 30 years. And the Clay Griffith reproduced it faithfully. One piece of furniture that they haven't made in 30 years, he found it in some rare antique shop. So I'm really impressed with the authenticity in this film.
Thanks, Mom. The movie scripted had a different ending, which Francis is playing a Neil Young song on the way home for the family. And the scene just didn't quite come out right. Part of it was the way I filmed it. There was a Mrs. Butterworth's bottle that just, for some reason, overtook every shot. It looked like the movie was all about getting to the point where the family could love Mrs. Butterworth's. So we cut it, and in the end, we have pieces of it in there, as you'll see a little later. But William, the movie theatrical version especially is through William's eyes. But along the way, I kept working on the ending, and right before we started filming, I came up with this idea that Russell and Elaine Miller would come together. And Francis does a 4-stage reaction at the door, which is fun to count.
So this is the
But I wanted to bring these kind of twin pillars of influence on the young William Miller. I wanted to bring them together. And it's really great to watch Francis and Billy, who've worked together in plays and know each other well, just so beautifully working together. And you can kind of, and Zooey Deschanel, of course, striking a pose that just,
Hello?
I don't know why it's so funny, but it is.
Huge laugh.
Yeah.
But you got to just watch Francis and Billy here, because these are two actors that they're like athletes that perform best working off each other. And it's a sight to see. It was a long road getting these actors in the parts that they're in. For some reason, I thought after Jerry Maguire it'd be easy to get exactly who you wanted. But the cast changed, the chemistry of the cast changed, and it was very fortuitous that these people ended up in these parts, because these are the ones.
You were lucky.
These are the ones.
You were lucky, Cameron.
Enormously lucky.
Yes.
No, I agree.
Somebody was smiling down on us.
You bet.
Look at these looks between them.
Yeah.
There's hope for you yet.
Russell. And here's Billy giving you, again, with no words,
yes, the
grace that the character needed.
Fine actor.
And there's El Cordobés.
That's my poster.
Yeah. Enough of this melancholy. That's my poster, damn it.
What are you doing with my poster, Cameron?
Before the movie's over, I think it's really important to thank and mention Larry Kasdan, who in the days after Jerry Maguire, I spoke to Larry and I told him about another project I was thinking of doing. And he said, when are you going to do that movie you've always been talking about? Larry, I met for the first time around the time of Say Anything.
She wanted us to.
He almost directed Say Anything, supported me to direct it myself. And we talked about Lester Bangs in this movie on that day back in 1988. And when I talked to Larry years later, he said, why are you doing that movie you always used to talk about? If you don't do it now, you're never going to do it.
Give her a call.
And it was on that day that I put down
live in the same city?
what I was working on and resurrected this project. And that's why Larry's thanked at the end of the movie.
And I thank you too, because I tried to get Cameron to do this for 10 long years, but who listens to moms? And he called me one day and said, I just talked to Larry Kasdan and I told him I was going to do the film. So thank you, Larry. And I met you at a party and I thanked you in person.
Same night you met Mick Jagger, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Artie Shaw.
Larry and Meg, his wife, Meg Kasdan, were real supporters of the project, as was their son, John Kasdan, that wrote me a letter very early on saying the same thing. And these are people that really were sort of, crusaders to get me to do it.
Right.
And also, Andy and Scott who are here, this was not an easy movie to make. So to my friends and close
faithful
family,
Scott and Andy,
a lot of people had to hear me going, why am I making a movie about me?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Take me home, Mr. Wizard.
Mr. Wizard.
You guys put up with a lot of small and large freakouts, and I'm just so happy I did this movie, and I'm so happy to be seeing it in this form. So, gracias, señores y señoras. Joe Hutching.
And thank you. You kept my son sane.
Joe Hutching put this together. That's a young man from the Starlight Project who we put in. We finally got a place for him. And there's a piece of the Mrs. Butterworth scene. As you can see, there's Mrs. Butterworth. Kind of like a holy icon.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's like that Zeppelin thing, the object.
The object. That's right. It's the obelisk. Also, Eric Stoltz has been in every one of the movies in one way or another.
Yeah.
We were going to film Eric Stoltz on a marquee at the end of this movie. As his band, The Crazy World of Eric Stoltz, was coming to Cleveland. Again, we ran out of money. But he does appear cryptically at some point in Untitled, and I say to anybody out there interested, find Eric. He's in there. The streak is alive. I was always proud also that we kept so long in black here at the end of the movie. We stayed in darkness with no titles.
It's great.
Because we had to let Tangerine play out.
It's a great song.
We didn't have any more film. So it's kind of like giving you a moment just to listen to music at the end. And then we play Feel Flows with all the Polaroids. And, the movie just keeps giving gifts to all of us, I think, people that love music.
And Jerry Ziesmer.
I'm about to talk about Jerry Ziesmer. Jerry and Suzanne Ziesmer, who...
Oh, yes.
This is their final movie as assistant director and co-assistant director. Jerry and Suzanne are...
Thank you, Jerry, for letting me get up on the stage and have 1/2 second in this film.
Okay, thanks, Mom. Not that you're keeping score. But Jerry and Suzanne kept everything going. It was a tough movie to kind of harness and keep on the course, but you guys did it. Thank you. Also want to mention Lisa Stewart and Ian Bryce, who produced the movie. Jeff Wexler and Don Sufel, who were the great kings of production sound. Doug Hemphill and Rick Klein and Paul Massey, who we love to mix the movies in post-production. And just a little side note that's not so little to me is the great presence in Almost Famous is a man who's not there, and it's the empty chair at the dining room table who represents the effect of my dad, whose memory really is palpable for all of us in my family, and his presence I wanted to be felt in Almost Famous too. Not a day goes by we don't miss James Crowe, so I dedicate this untitled cut of the movie to him, my dad, Jim Crowe. Feel Flow is always meant to be featured in the movie. It's such a great Beach Boys song. And it just had the feeling of like grace and kind of intoxicating good vibes. And I wanted to end the movie ultimately with this, if we could. But But the point is, like, a lot of odd, unexpected gifts came about and as a result of the movie. And one of them was Brian Wilson, who is the genius of the Beach Boys, and the first album you see in the tartan bag of records underneath the kid's bed in this movie, you know, Pet Sounds, Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson was taken by his band to go see Almost Famous in the theater. He sat through it, and at the end, he heard this song, which is sung by his late brother, Carl. Afterwards, when the lights came up, the guys in his band that took him to see the movie said, "What you think?" And he said, "I really loved it. And listening to Feel Flows, I love that song. I really miss my brother, Carl."
Mm-hmm.
And for me, you know, I'm a huge Carl Wilson, Brian Wilson fan. And it's just one of the great little byproducts of doing a movie that really was a labor of love for us, that you can actually touch one of the people who touched you. So that was a cool thing.
I think that you have to hail Michael Angarano and his parents also.
Yeah, Michael Angarano, who
Great
played young
actor.
William, fantastic. Anna Maria Quintana, script supervisor, did so much. Post-production, Ophie Jimenez, Heather Goodwin, Mark, Sar, Joe, the editorial people. Mike Thomas, the operator, camera operator, did an amazing job.
I hear that the Pope is going to anoint Joe Hutzing as a next saint. And I agree.
Yeah.
Well, particularly for Vanilla Sky, but
Joe
that's another
Hutzing,
story.
the editor.
He is an actor's best friend.
He's an actor's best friend and so much fun to work with. And
Saint Joe.
I just think especially now it's a great time for this movie to come out in this form, because for anyone that wanted more so-called grit or that kind of like corrosive anger that's present in a lot of the best rock, for anyone that wants that, there are those movies, and there are movies featuring that slant that I love. But I'm glad we made this one, because this one sort of fills in a few colors that I hadn't seen enough of. And it is how it felt. And in the end, you can only tell the story that you can tell. And this was what it felt like to me to be 15 in 1973 and taken in to this world. I feel like no matter what kind of movie I wanted to make, it was going to end up being this, because this was what it looked like through my fans' eyes. So,
You didn't expect the Oscar, and how wonderful that you got it, because you surely earned it.
I agree.
I got those. I stay up late.
Did that really happen?
I get your 2:00 in the morning calls.
Well, I'm
As a
glad I got
therapist,
to
as a
stand up,
therapist, I'm your mom and your shrink.
and I got to stand up at a podium and hail you a little bit. So thanks, Mom.
Thank you.